Hey, yo, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Drop. I'm your host, Dan Matha, and I got my main man in the house, Tino Piscitelli.
What's up, man?
Mr. Second round draft pick to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Mr. 6 years in the NFL. And I met this man in the WWE. What up, my man? I'm glad you're in the house.
How you doing, man? Good to see you, bro. Thanks for having me on your show, first of all, and it's great to see you, man. How you doing?
Doing well, bro. Doing pretty well considering the world's gone crazy and all the circumstances that are going on over these past couple weeks.
Let me tell you something. Did you ever think this was going to be the world we're living in right now in 2020?
I did not see this coming.
Me either.
I did not see the world shutting down over some flu virus.
No, man, I really did. It's a unique time, say the less, man. But, hopefully everyone's staying safe out there. I like your beard you're growing out there, man. That looks good. I mean, I can't grow much facial hair, but I haven't shaved in like 6 weeks. I'm proud of it.
Yeah?
I'm proud of it.
That's but you're a real pretty motherfucker, you know what I mean? You don't need too much hair.
I can't grow it though, Trying to get that, accentuate that jawline a little bit.
We'll see. Honestly, when you got a nice strong jawline, the beard, I feel like the beard takes away from it.
You're right.
But the beard, for me, I got this thing growing because I was in that accident, you know what I mean? So I just started letting it.
First of all, how you doing from that, man?
Dude.
How you doing? Let's just go on record right now. That was a miracle right there, man. I saw the car. I saw pictures of the car. So I'm grateful you're okay. I want to hear about that story, though.
So to be honest with you, I'm feeling great.
You look great.
I mean, I've got some tight. I got some knots in my shoulders because my shoulders and my neck muscles, those extensor muscles that connect into to your skull, into your traps. My traps and my rear delts are just, they're not locked anymore. They were locked. They're starting to loosen up. I've been getting some massage treatment, and I've been starting to train again. Just keeping everything pretty light, doing some yoga and getting some treatment done on them, but. Considering the fact that I got ejected through a car window, and not even a month ago, you know what I mean? Wow. On the 28th, it'll have been a month. I'm feeling great, man.
But you know what? And I think this is overlooked by a lot of people, but you are obviously an incredible athlete, number one, but you take incredible care of yourself. You're physically, mentally so strong that comes into play. I don't think people realize, you got injected from a car, yes, but you're 6'9", 300 pounds, and you literally every single day take care of your body, and it paid off. I mean, you went through a car windshield, and a month later you're sitting here with me you have a couple scratches on you, little scar on your head. It's going to build character, but that people
hard to kill.
People overlook that. People overlook that, and I think that's the value of, because I know I've always lived my life by that. I've always been a big believer in taking care of your body, and the body will take care of you. So that's right there's a proven point right there, man.
100%. Your body's your temple.
Temple. 100%.
You know what I mean? And
100%.
I just want to put this on the record. I feel like what happened that day, something bigger than me was looking after me, and not I don't want to get super spiritual
100%,
right now. You know what
100%.
I mean? But definitely something bigger than me was looking after me that day.
100%.
But without a doubt, the way I've taken care of my body over the years is definitely coming into play.
Played a huge factor.
A lot of people were like, you're big and you're strong, you're taking care of yourself. It has, that's why you made it out the way that you made it out. And I've been training hard since I was 12 years old.
100%. Yep.
Then nutrition comes into effect. If it ain't good for me, I ain't putting it in my body. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And as I got older in the game, I started learning more about nutrition. I mean, it's been over 10 years since I've had pop or any type of fast food.
Yep.
I only eat stuff that's from the ground, that's coming from earth. And I know everything that I put in my body. I know everything that I consume. I know the way I train. I've never missed a day of training since the first time I scavenged a weight bench from the trash. You know what I mean?
People used to ask me all the time, and it's funny. A very wise man once told me this too, though. Somebody asked me one time, how do you stay in such good shape? You know what my answer was? And the best answer I've heard is, I never let myself get out of shape. And that's the key. The key to anything is consistency. Like you said, consistency is what builds anything that's worth building. And like you said, I haven't missed the word. They used to lock the gym on me in college. Like literally on Saturday morning, I used to try to sneak in, and they would lock the back door because they knew I would sneak in college. But like you said, it paid off, and I'm glad you're sitting here, man. We're having this conversation because I saw the car, and the car wasn't in that good of shape. The car did not win that battle. I'll tell you that right now. You won the battle. The car lost that battle, bro.
Yo, I went to they rushed me to that trauma center. I got in there at like 8:30 at night on a Saturday, and I walked up out of that place at 11:30 a.m. the next morning.
Wow. Walked
up out of there.
Ubered home?
No, I had my boy come pick me up.
Got you.
I had my boy come pick me up.
Wow.
And it was crazy when I was walking out of there. The nurse that was taking care of me that night, she goes, "Darling, I've been on this floor for about 16 months. You're the first person to come in here that hasn't had to have multiple surgeries or go ahead and die on me."
Wow.
And when she said that to me, it was just like, not that I needed more to put everything into perspective because, you know, the weeks and even still, it was only not even a month ago. I'm still thinking, like, I'm not shook about what happened. But I definitely think about all the scenarios that could have happened. Right. And there's literally 1,000 scenarios that could have happened. And the one that happened has me sitting here right now, able to talk to you and everybody else that's listening to this.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Like, I can literally tell you all the different scenarios that could have happened. Like, I could have not made it through the window, hit somewhere in the car.
Hit top of the roof or something?
Top of the roof, broke my neck, bounced around in the car. My arm could have got stuck. My leg could have got stuck, snapped in half, amputated. I could have went through the window and landed on the road and got run over 100%. By another car. I could have got hit. You know, the vehicle that hit me also, I mean, it could have been a semi. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's a whole different, like, there's so many different.
That's what happens, though, when situations happen. You start rolling through your mind what could have happened, and you have all these different scenarios in your head. Let me ask you the question. The car that hit you, was everyone okay there? Or how was that car?
Yeah, they were okay. They had something with their leg, nothing too serious. The guy, because they were in the room next to me when I was like, it was a crate. Like when I was in the trauma center, I'm like strapped down, and I could hear the guy in the room next to me, and they were talking, and he had something with his leg. I think he may have like broke his leg or his ankle. I'm not exactly sure what happened, but he was okay. He was a little shooken up from like the accident, obviously, because it was a super intense situation. But he was fine, and like I had just talked, we're dealing with all the insurance crap right now. So
did you get the information, the speed of the cars?
Yeah, 60 miles an hour.
Hold on, what?
60 miles an hour.
He was going 60?
Yeah, I was going 62, or I was good. So it was estimated 50 to 60 miles per hour.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, you are blessed, man. And like I said, that's credit for how good you take care of yourself too.
Yeah, man.
Wow.
Collision sport. I've been playing collision sports since I was 12 years old.
Absolutely.
And then I transitioned right from football into wrestling. So it's like I've been, little mini car accidents
every game,
left and right.
Yep.
Left and right every single day for the past 19 years, however long it's been.
Wow.
So definitely has something to play, but I can't honestly. You said you saw the car. People that have been on my Instagram account or all the sites that once I posted the picture, mad sites picked up like the situation. So a lot of people have kind of seen the car wreck, and when you just look at it, man, it's just like there's no way I'm supposed to be here right now, no matter how big I am. Wow. Like I'm a big mofo, but not bigger than 1,000+ pound vehicle moving 50 miles an hour, colliding into another 1,000-pound vehicle moving 50 miles an hour.
Did they say how far you landed away from the car?
No,
they didn't.
No. So I don't know all that. Honestly, the last thing I remember is thinking that there was something. I was like, this is a weird intersection. And then the next thing I remember is waking up on the concrete and looking, and there was like 3 people over top of me. And then there was people everywhere, and like I'm bleeding. There's like kind of chaos, and I'm like trying to figure out what just happened. So
you were running that scenario through your head, but so how was the collision of the 2 cars? If I'm trying to look at it in my head, you were driving like eastbound, he was driving westbound, or how that worked?
So I was driving through the intersection, and he collided me perpendicularly. So he collided right into my driver's side front end.
Front end, okay.
Yeah, because if you see in the picture, the wheels on the front end got just wrapped around, and one of them fell off.
So there was no stoplight, there was no stop sign.
From what I was told, there was a stop sign. But as I was approaching this intersection. So I'm like 30 minutes from Orlando where I was at. I was going to pick up these end tables for the studio for the podcast, actually. And I was on the way back home, and I'm driving down this rural road, and there's no side roads or anything. It's just a long road. And it's 7 p.m. at night. I remember being super bright suns in my eyes, and I'm coming down, and I'm approaching this intersection, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm preparing to stop because it's an intersection. You're most likely going to stop. Street light, stop sign, whatever. I get a little bit closer, and I don't see a street light. So then I get a little bit closer, and I don't see a stop sign. And I'm slowing down to prepare to stop, but I don't see it. And I'm thinking to myself, that's weird. There's not a stop sign here. But in Florida, they have intersections where only one direction has the stop signs.
Yep.
So when I was like, that's weird, I just automatically assumed that was what it was. And then the next thing you know,
wow,
I'm waking up with people all over the place, and I'm bleeding, and someone, I got up actually, and the lady, in the middle of the three goes, she told me her name, her profession. I don't remember her name, but she was a nurse, and she was just pleading with me to stay still because she was just we got to keep you immobile because everybody thought my neck was broken. That was they just thought, because I don't know how many people get ejected through a car window and don't have something broken, right? So that's the first thing. And in any type of major trauma, you get taught, how it is with football and wrestling. We got taught if somebody has any type of head or neck injury, you got to keep them immobile until the doctors and stuff get there. So that's obviously what they're trained to do immediately. So that she was pleading with me to stay still because I got up, and then the next thing I remember, I'm getting loaded into the ambulance by the EMTs, and then that's where my memory starts coming back to me. In the EMTs, I remember because I'm strapped down to a
Couldn't
board,
move, yeah.
my neck's immobile. I'm in a big harness, and I'm just trying to figure out what happened. And surprisingly, I was staying super calm. I don't know if that's just because a lifetime of being in super intense situations where it was just I just intuitively knew that you got to stay calm, you know what I mean? Even in the craziest situations. But I could sense, and I don't know if that's where this maybe this where pro wrestling comes into play, where you're just performing in front of these people and you start learning how to feel a crowd's energy and stuff.
So you
and
felt their energy, huh?
And I'm feeling the people's energy, and I can feel that they're nervous and tense. So then I was I got to keep these people calm so that they can work on me, So so I just started questioning. I was just what happened? Where am I? And then they told me, you were in an accident and you were ejected through the front window. And which I was oh shit. And then told me they were worried about, I had a huge laceration on my head, and they were worried that my neck was broken. And so the whole ride to the trauma center was just, it was pretty intense. I was just trying to stay calm. I was definitely a little there was some fear there, because it's I don't know what's happening. I can't even move.
Mixed emotions, man.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I was just I can't even move at the time. You know what I mean?
You're strapped in so tight.
To even know, I want to try and move to feel.
You were trying to test your own limbs.
I'm trying to test. Yep. I'm moving my hands and my feet and everything, and I'm moving all my limbs and everything, and trying to show them that I've got everything. And I got into, so when we get there, it was we got to the trauma center. There was a team waiting for me, bro.
Oh, man.
Wow. They were waiting, and, it's during COVID, right? COVID-19. So everyone's got masks on, and I get in there. It's a scene from ER, just boom. I get in there poking, prodding, running every test that you could imagine that they ran on me. And then we're waiting to get into the CT scanner. And that's when they were saying they were worried about my neck, and they were I could sense in there that people were nervous too. So I was trying to tell some jokes in there, and so the nurses were, were cute. So, I'm flirting with them a little bit, you know what I mean?
Good old Dan.
Flirting with the nurses a little bit, you know what I mean? I figured I could ease the tension
Rico
a little
Swami
bit.
over here, man.
And so they threw me in the CT scanner, and they did a full-length scan of my spine, my brain, my pelvis, and my left elbow, because my left elbow was jacked up. And after they did the scan, they took me out, and I waited about 20, 30 minutes. And the doctor comes out, and he comes into the room with the results, and he goes, I don't know who you are or where you're from, but there's nothing wrong with you.
Wow.
He was like, and I was like, I asked him, I was like, nothing? And he was like, nothing. He's like, no breaks, no fractures, no brain bleeding. He was like, you've got a nasty gash on the top of your head. He was like, and you got a concussion and you got some road burn on the left side of your body, which I had road burn on my left shoulder, my left elbow, my hand, and my ankle. And my ass, my left ass cheek. I got so much skin. I got so much skin ripped up off there, bro. I got so much skin taken up off there.
Wow. So you stayed overnight.
I stayed overnight. The crazy thing though is leading up to the CT scan, I had this weird sense to me that I was okay.
Now, did they give you any like numbing medication when you first got there? Because when you're waiting to go on a CT scan, were you like, you said you were doing all your own tests, right? So could you feel like you were okay, or did you feel like something was tight? Did you feel like, were you worried, or like, did you like?
Well, I knew my neck was on fire, bro. Like the muscles and shit. Yeah. I knew they were on fire.
You gotta think they all locked up.
Oh, bro. And honestly, those muscles saved me, bro.
100%.
Those muscles, doing all those like all that heavy work, working that posterior chain.
What about all the bumps you take? What about all the rolls and the flip bumps? Like that strengthens your neck tremendously. Yeah. Every bump you take.
I've been training my neck too, from football on. I've been very fortunate to, I started training when I was 12. And, I trained on my own for like the first year. My boy and his dad, like I was in the 7th grade at the time, his dad had a gym in his wife's salon's basement. We did like a bro split down there. It was my first time I kind of had structure.
Yeah.
But then in the 8th grade, I had a great strength and conditioning coach for my high school, Erie McDowell, Joe Megorian.
Wow. Yeah.
And he just set the foundation. He just had, these scheduled workouts, 4-week waves of just like the fundamentals.
I remember those.
And we just lifted and we trained hard, and we just, Monday was like a max upper, Tuesday was a max lower, Wednesday off, Thursday was a dynamic day, and then Friday was like an Olympic lifting day, and then we had the weekend off. And it was just like we would come in there, we would train hard as hell every single day. And I took that serious because like I knew that if I got better at this, that I would get better at football, 100%. Which would like increase my opportunities to get up out of my situation, get a scholarship, and then move on to like my, to my dreams of pursuing professional football. So it was just like, ever since then, I've just been training, and I've been training. I'm not just hitting like the look muscles. I'm not just hitting biceps and abs, I'm hitting posterior chain. I'm hitting glutes. I'm hitting hamstrings. I'm hitting low back, upper back, traps. I'm working my neck. I remember having a neck, being taught like if you train your neck, you're going to decrease your ability, or you're going to decrease your chances of having a concussion. So I would like train my neck 2-3 times a week all the time. And I did that I've done that till this day.
Yeah.
And I think all of that stuff when I landed, because it,
I think all that preparation of your whole life prepared you for that. In a sense, it prepared you to go through a window.
20 years of grinding, bro, saved my life.
100%. 100%. Listen, you said earlier in the conversation that there was another power there that you believed, something different. And I believe that too, absolutely.
And I don't know what you want to call it. I don't know what you want to call it.
You call it whatever you want.
You call it God, you call it the universe, you call it a mystical power. I don't know. I'm not saying that I know what it is, because I don't know what it is, but I tell you that there was something.
100%. But you taking care of your body for 20 years at a high level paid off.
Hell yeah.
I'll tell you something, quick story on that. I didn't nowhere near your accident, but I had an accident about 4 years ago. I was in a Tahoe, and I hydroplaned off the road, and there was no one on the road. It was about midnight, and it was pouring rain. And all of a sudden, I kind of hydroplaned the first time, and I caught it, and I was like, okay, let me slow down. All of a sudden, I hydroplaned, and a car hit my back end, and I started spinning in I-95. Oh, damn. And I'm spinning. And all I kept thinking was like, please, someone don't hit me. Please, someone don't hit me. So as I'm spinning, I'm like, here we go. I was like, here we go. I embraced for the worst, and I literally remember locking my body to the back seat of my Tahoe and holding as strong as I can. All of a sudden, I hit the wall. I locked myself so hard that the airbag came, touched my nose, didn't even barely touch me, and went back in, right? And I was sitting there. I was holding so tight that my imprints in my hands was in the steering wheel.
Oh, that boy had that gripper. Literally. That boy had that gripper.
So then the cop showed up to my dad, and I called my trainer the next day, and it's a funny thing. He said that his first thing he said to me, he goes, Sabby, I was going 85 miles per hour too. Okay. So you got to think about hitting a wall going 85 miles per hour and not moving.
Tahoe too.
And not moving from the back of my. I remember pinning my head, literally on the back and like going like this, and like I literally remember holding that position while I hit the wall.
Right.
And I remember my trainer made a joke. He said, if you weren't so strong or whatever he said, athletically so gifted, he was 90% of people cannot hold their weight against of a back of a chair going 85 miles per hour. And again, I know he was making it as a joke, but it does pay off when you take very, very good care of your body. When you're in a situation of stress, your body knows how to react and it could cope with it better.
Yeah.
You know, all the rolls you do, you might not even know it. Your body might have reacted as you were injected through the car to know the roll. And maybe you rolled instead of smacking down on the floor.
Well, dude, that's like something about that I think all athletes should learn is learning how to fall.
100%.
Because there's gonna come a moment in your life where you get knocked off your feet, lose your balance for whatever reason. You know what I mean?
100%.
And you are gonna need to know how to fall and land gracefully to keep yourself from getting hurt. And so through context clues of me trying to put together everything, my elbow was pretty jacked up. So I think what happened, and this, I have no idea what really happened because like I told you, this is weird. No stop sign. Oh shit, where am I? Like that, those are literally, there's nothing in between.
You don't remember a sound?
Nothing in between.
People say they remember sounds and accidents.
Bro,
no? You hear
I don't
sound?
even remember, like it wasn't like, oh, you know, like, oh shit, you know what I mean? Not like last second snapping or turning. Nothing, dude. It's literally,
came out of nowhere.
It's literally, that's weird to like waking up on the concrete.
Wow.
And, but through context clues, I looked at, you know, what happened, where I have the injuries, everything, all the road burn I have is on the left side of my body. Nothing on the right side of my body. And my left shoulder felt jammed. Like, you know how if you've ever fallen and braced yourself and your shoulder jams up? It felt super jammed. And like I said, my elbow was jacked and I had like glass all in like my left wrist where my pinky is and like that.
You had glass?
That area.
So you think that went first?
They had, so I had a little bit of a cut over my left eyebrow, but they didn't even stitch that. They put a little bit of glue and honestly, I can barely even notice that it's there.
I don't even see that.
Yeah, it healed up super quick. All my cuts have healed up super quick, which is crazy in itself. But when I think what happened is I went through the window and I braced myself with my left arm and like rolled onto my shoulder, and I think that's where my head snapped onto the concrete, and just because it looked like somebody stuck my head in the back of right into a freaking a garbage disposal, because it is like this spiral little like the spiral gash that's in there, and it just like ripped off. Yeah.
Did you land on the road or in the grass, or did they say that?
I don't know. I think the road, because I had like gravel and glass in my arms and shit.
So you got to think, if it's your left side, car hit you on the left side, so you probably got hit and went like almost that way. That's.
I can't even, honestly, I don't even know how the physics of any of it happened.
I don't even know how you fit through a windshield, to be honest with you. Seriously,
dude,
like, I don't know how do you fit through a windshield?
I don't even know how my legs didn't get caught. I didn't, you know what I mean? I just don't know.
Like you said, if you go through that windshield 100 more times, I mean, like you said, something might happen. Leg get caught, arm get caught. I don't even know how, when you told me, I was like, hold on, you went through the windshield?
Yeah.
And I'm talking to you right now? Wow. Listen, I'm just glad you're okay, my man.
Me too.
Congratulations,
man.
Blessed, man.
Blessed, bro.
We are, and you know, that puts everything in perspective. It really does. You know, puts life in perspective. What really matters, the things you got to just take advantage in every single day of your life, man. And be grateful.
Well, that's like when, you know, with everything that's kind of been going on in the world, and then everything that's happened with work, you know, with the WWE, with all the releases. When I got released, people were like reaching out to me and like saying, you know, I'm sorry to hear that, blah, blah, blah. Which, one, I asked for my release, so it was like, I didn't really feel that bad. I mean, I was like, the frustration was like months before, which it culminated to me asking for my release.
Absolutely, yeah.
But like, even if I didn't ask for my release, it's like that wouldn't even been the worst news I got in 2 weeks. You know, the worst thing that happened to me in 2 weeks. Like, I'm grateful to be alive right now. Like, I'm here talking to you, and not just alive, because like, honestly, there's things that could have happened to me that would be worse than death.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
I could be only able to communicate through moving 2 fingers, you know what I mean? Or not able to move being in a vegetated state right now.
Dude, there's a lot of people I know, I'm sure you know people that were in car accidents that are in that state of mind.
Dude, what's his face? Tavares Jackson.
He passed away.
Dude, and it happened a week after I had my accident.
I played against him, by the way.
Yeah.
I played against him in Buffalo and Seattle.
Yeah.
crazy.
When you were with Tampa Bay.
I love Tampa Bay. It's crazy. I heard that story and I was like, at first, the name rang a bell, right? Yeah. And then I looked on the ESPN article and I saw him. And I was like, wow, I played against him.
Well, and that's the thing is like, yo, he's an elite level athlete too.
100%.
And he didn't make it. So it's like all this shit we just got done talking about, me being an elite athlete, taking care of my body, you know, I'd like to think it helped, and I think it did to an extent, but at the same time,
you had no power.
I don't think it did, you know? I don't know if it did.
Listen, man, you were blessed in that moment. Somebody was looking you over for sure.
So you're talking about playing against him. Tampa Bay.
Yep.
It's the draft weekend right now.
It is the draft weekend.
It's the draft weekend right now. A lot of young kids' lives are about to change.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. You know what? That was a tremendous opportunity in my life. Kind of like you even spoke earlier on. For me, my whole life, I wanted to be a professional athlete. From the day I could remember, 5, 6 years old, all I wanted to do was compete. I used to have this friend of mine who lived behind me. He was about 4 or 5 years older than me. And I remember one day I asked him to race. I think I was 5 and he was like 9. So that's a big gap in a kid's, you know. So he smoked me, of course, right? No. One more race. Smoked me again. No. One more race. Smoked me again, right? No. One more race. I was always so competitive. I was so competitive that sadly now I have a great relationship with my brother, but back then I didn't because he was younger than me. So I was always, you know, trying to compete with him. He wasn't even that style, but that's where I was bred. Like I was born to be an athlete. So
your brother wasn't competitive? He
wasn't. He was more passive. You know what I'm saying?
That's how my brother was.
And I kind of look back now and I regret the way I was as a big brother to him then. But it kind of led me to be a great big brother now, if that makes any sense. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But just back to being an athlete, like I said, I played every sport my whole life, man. I really did. And I remember
you were a great baseball player too, right?
So the funny thing was, football was the last sport I picked up. I didn't play football until I was 17 years old.
Yo, so ladies and gentlemen that are listening to this, I just want you to know that football, everyone thinks like, yeah, football, basketball have the greatest athletes on the planet, in my opinion.
100%.
For sure. I don't even think it's an opinion. I think it's like
it's a fact.
It's a fact.
It's a fact.
Right? Football adds another element of like physicality that basketball doesn't have. You know what I mean? So, but football, as much as the ability, you know, God-given ability and all the training that takes place, it is an extremely skilled sport.
100%.
And like, you have to be a smart player. And some of it is like, you just need experience. Like you need time in the game. To pick up the game at 16, right? Is that
17.
17 years old, and then to get picked up by a Division I program, right?
Barely. I'll tell you that story in a second.
Okay. But I just need everybody to listen to this to know how freaking crazy it is that you started playing at 17 years old, got picked up by a Division I team, and then had a freaking 6-year career in the NFL.
So I remember one time, before I tell the story, I remember one time I was in the NFL. I was in the coach's office and I walked by the office. I don't know how it came up, but I said to the coach, yeah, man, I didn't start playing until I was 17. And he literally starts laughing out loud. He goes, man, stop playing, man. That's a joke. I go, no, coach, 17. He goes, yeah, right, dude. No one makes the NFL and then starts 17. He pulled out a stat sheet and he said, I think it was like 93% of every NFL player started at the age of 7, the latest. 93%. So that's just a quick story. But like you just said too, was yes, football was the last sport I picked up, but my parents drove me into every single sport. So it allowed me to mold my athleticism and really get my competitiveness when I jumped into a new sport. There's pros and cons to everything, like you just said. Yes, I was that athletically gifted, so I kind of beat the curve. But then when I got to the next level of the NFL, the greatest level, you got to remember those are the elite of the elite athletes,
1%
right?
1% of 1%.
1% of 1%. So when I got to that level, then the con started to come in a little bit of the experience of the game. And that's where I lacked. But that being said, that's why I was in the film room till 11 o'clock at night in college every day. Yep. That's why when I went to Oregon State, all I did was eat, sleep, train, and football. And everything I did was predicated on making me better. If the food didn't make me better, I didn't eat it. If going out didn't make me better, I don't go out. Partying did not make me better. Drinking did not make me better. Smoking did not make me better. And that's the way I looked at everything in life, because I knew I wanted to be a professional athlete. And I fell in love with football and I fell out of love with baseball kind of simultaneously. So I didn't have to sit and make a decision, because the decision was made for me by just playing both games. Like in high school, in Florida, High school football was first, and then baseball second. So I started my junior year, my first year, and I was kind of just like a little kid running around, right? I didn't know nothing. I was just an athlete running around. So I played okay. I had some flashes of special player, but nothing, no one really talked about it. And everyone knows to get highly recruited for college, you have to really have a good junior year. That's what teams notice you. And then going in your senior year, they're watching you and then they offer you scholarships and you go on. So junior year was my first year, so I had no one looking at me. So I come in my senior year and I kind of like come out of nowhere. I actually got defensive player of the year in South Florida. I led the county in interceptions. I had 0 offers on National Signing Day.
Damn.
0.
Damn.
And I was defense player of the year. And I remember watching my mom cry. And a scout told my mom, I'll never forget this. She told my mom, if your son was African American, he'd be able to go to any college he wanted in the country.
Okay.
And that was the first time that I remember watching my mom cry, because they didn't believe that I ran a 4.4 in high school. They didn't believe that I was as quick as people were saying I was. They didn't believe it.
Especially at the position you play.
There's
a reverse stigma.
100%.
There's a reverse stigma in football
100%.
where, like, if you're playing receiver, you're playing D-back, you know what I mean? And you're a white boy, you know.
White boys don't fit.
White boys don't play, you know, because you can't
White
run.
boys don't fit.
Can't run.
So I remember my mom started screaming. She was crying. She hung up the phone. She's like, oh, my son will be somebody special. And I remember I was sitting in the kitchen. And I was sitting there. And at this time, I was actually getting recruited for the pros for baseball when the season started, but I didn't love it no more. And I knew I didn't love it no more. Like, I didn't love baseball, and I loved football. So the situation that I actually think changed my life really was my high school baseball coach pulled me in the office. And he said to me, Sabby, he said, forget with that football stuff, man. He goes, listen, man, you're a white DB. You're a white safety. Doesn't happen. Doesn't fit. He goes, maybe you'll start 1 year in D1. Maybe. He goes, listen, you got the Baltimore Orioles and you have the Boston Red Sox scout here almost every day looking to watch you hit BP. Give that football stuff up and focus on baseball. You're not going to be able to play football at a high level.
What do they want you to play? What baseball? What do they want you to play for baseball?
Outfield.
Because you can run, bro.
So
you can run, so you would be covering mad ground.
So the funny thing was, that's actually the thing with baseball, I'll just touch on that for a second, was, see, I played every sport, right? So I only played baseball like 3 months a year. And hitting is consistency, right? So I would bat 400 for 10 games and look like a pro, and then I'd bat 200 and strike out twice a game because I just couldn't get the consistency down. But if you watched me at BP, you'd be like, oh man, this kid's got it all. I would literally put on a show. Like, so I was still very raw at baseball, but baseball's a lot of mental, right? And you come from football. You can't duplicate the rush of football when you hit somebody and you hear people just go crazy and you hear the body just, and it's like a adrenaline rush. It's a drug. It really is a drug. Yeah. So, like I said, then when a coach said that to me, he didn't have the right to tell me, you're not going to make it over here. So come over to baseball. I remember sitting in that chair and looking him in the eye. And I said, really? Only play 1 year?
Took that as a challenge.
3-year starter, All-American, second-round draft pick. And I take those moments, and I'm grateful because those moments molded me into the guy I was today, right? Mm-hmm. And that situation challenged me. And, you just said it's kind of a reverse stigma in football with a white DB, right? Yeah. And half my best friends are African American. Rashad Evans, Ray Lewis. I'm blessed to have such tremendous icons, my best friends. But I was in a part in life where I was not the norm. I was everything to say this kid's not going to make it. So I guess that's what fueled me every single day. You know what I'm saying? And challenged me every single day to get better. And I remember as a young kid, Dan, that everybody might say they want to be a pro athlete, little kids on the playground. Yep. I remember at a young age, I had the ability to actually think what I had to do to become a pro athlete. Like, usually a 12-year-old or 13-year-old doesn't say, okay, I can't drink, right, I can't party, I can't smoke. I'm not going to chase girls. I'm just going to focus on this craft. Usually you get that as you get older, and sometimes people never get that at all. But I was at like 12 years old thinking to myself, okay, I was writing down like, okay, I can't do this. I can't do that. Never touched alcohol. But it wasn't because I was trying to be better than anybody else. I just was like, listen, is that going to make me better? No, it's not. So that was my mentality growing up. And like you said, I was very fortunate to be a second-round draft pick. I played 6 years in the NFL. To my standards, my career was not where I wanted to be. But again, you got to walk away grateful for the opportunity. But it is what it is.
Bro, that is literally the most asinine thing ever, bro.
But you know, the expectations you have for yourself.
I know. As you know, an atypical type of personality where you're hyper competitive, like
absolutely.
You know, the standard is for yourself is like nobody is a worse critic than you are.
Absolutely.
Like nobody, like when people would criticize me, it's like, listen, I already know. Like you can't, like nobody's going to criticize me. Like
nobody's harder on you than you.
Yeah, listen,
no one's harder.
I'm in the film room. I see everything I'm doing. I'm spending more time watching film than I am practicing. I'm watching 100%. More film, studying the playbook more than I'm actually playing the game. Like I know.
Absolutely.
I know what I need to do. I know the little things that I'm lacking on because I'm studying myself so that I can be the best version of myself.
Absolutely.
And it's like I'm holding myself to a stand. You know what I mean? Like if I'm grading out at 95% on the day, like that's a bad day.
100%.
You know what I mean? Like, and as you go up, you know, once you get because it changes as you go, right? You know, in high school, you're the hardest worker in your high school, right? Then you go to college. And you're a big fish in a big pond.
Absolutely.
And then it's like you thought you were a hard worker, but then you get there, you look around and you see the guys that are starters and top players on the team, and they're working at a different level than you.
100%.
So then it's like, oh, you start looking at them, seeing what they're doing. You're like, oh, okay, I got to start doing whatever these guys are doing so I could take my level to the next game. Then you get there, and then you know, hopefully you take your game to a different level.
You have to continue to grow and transform for sure.
And then that takes you then to the next level that you get to. Same thing is going to happen, right?
100%.
Same thing's going to happen.
It's like starting over.
Over every single time. And it's like, okay, I've got to take myself to like, I was the hardest worker before, but now, you know, there's guys. Who was there? Who were the veterans at Tampa Bay when you got there?
I was drafted, Derek Brooks was the big, you know, and I remember... Funny story about Derek Brooks. Obviously, I was a huge Florida State fan growing up in Florida. And I remember the first time I walked in the locker room, I saw Derek Brooks walk across the locker room, right? And I remember I was like in awe. I was like, that's Derek Brooks, right?
Derek Brooks.
Legend, right? And I remember just standing there and he was walking and he goes, what's up, young pup? So there's like that. What's up, young pup? What's up? and I remember like, he walked his locker, and the funny thing was, I remember thinking to myself, man, he's not as big as I thought. Because you know, especially when you're a kid, you think like pro athletes are like gods. Like you think they're larger than life. Like when you watch them, you think like that's not even a human being, right? So then you realize when you're actually in the locker room, you're like, oh, he's just like one of us, right? So actually the funniest story, the other person was there was Warwick Dunn. Okay. You remember Warwick Dunn, right?
Yep.
So I have a funny story about Warwick Dunn I want to tell real quick. Again, that was the first jersey I ever had at college. I had the 28 Florida State jersey. It was so big on me. I look at pictures now. I'm like, how did I wear that? But I wore it. I'll never forget first day. We signed him after my first year. So it was the first day of off-season workouts. And we're warming up. I'm in the back of the line. And I'm lacing up my cleats. And it's early morning. It's probably like 8 in the morning. The dew's still on the field. And the line's going. And the last guy in front of me was maybe about 20 yards away because I was tying my shoes. All of a sudden, I feel a tap on my back, right? And I turn around, and as I turn around, I don't see nothing because I turn around like at like eye level. And I look down, and it's Warwick Dunn. You know, he's not that tall,
right?
But he was like my idol. And I turn around, and he goes, "Young pup, what are we doing here, man? What's the stretches?" And I remember freezing up, and I didn't say anything. And I was like, "That's Warwick Dunn." I said that out loud until he laughed. And it was already my second year in NFL. Okay. But it was like,
so you'd already been around NFL players.
I was already around, but Warwick Dunn I never met. And that was like my childhood idol. Okay. I'll never forget as a running back, I was a huge Florida State fan. Peter Warwick Dunn. Those were my guys.
Okay.
But you asked about the leaders. So Derek Brooks was the leader. Cato June was the leader. Jeff Garcia. And it's funny because you speak on that. My best year in NFL was 2008. And that was the year I had the privilege to start with Derek Brooks. And I can't even put into words when you're on the field with a guy like Derek Brooks, the leadership, the icon. You don't want to let him down, man.
Right.
Like I can't even explain to you, Dan, how like I was so afraid to make a mistake for him.
Right.
Not for me, not for the fans, but for him, because his expectations were so high, but he was such a great leader, verbally, physically, and it was to a T where, like, if we knew it was a 3-yard run, we knew whose fault it was in a defense. So, like, for instance, if it was a 3-yard run and over 3 and he went through the A gap, and I was supposed to have the A gap, all he was walk by, he would say, "Pick it up, Piscitelli," but he would say it at a part where, like, "Yes, sir." Yes, sir. You knew that. Let's go, man. Don't let the icon down. And I remember him actually talking to me during plays. Like, the ball would be snapped and he'd be like, fall back. And I would fall back, and all of a sudden the running back would be right in my face.
Bro, that's that next level shit.
Dude,
I
got goosebumps, man. And it was, and again, it was like, and that's what, when I look back, and I'm so grateful and I'm so humble and thankful that I can say that I had the privilege to share the field with a Derek Brooks or a Warwick Dunn, or a Warren Sapp. Like, those are icons of something we all looked up to. And yes, me as a competitor, you want to be that. And even if you don't reach that, you just still got to sit back and say, you know what? Nobody could ever take that accomplishment away from you. Because I've always said something, and I still believe this to this day. The greater your achievements, the harder your failures. Let that sink in for a second, in my opinion. The greater your achievements, the harder your failures. And what I mean by that is this. The more successful you get, the more expectations you put on yourself, the more expectations people put on you, right? But the more they put on you, it doesn't matter what they put on you, because they might put expectations that you might never reach. So all of a sudden, you never reach their expectations, but now you're a failure, or now you're a bust, or now hold on. First of all, if I get so angry if I hear anybody get called a bust, because if you're being called a bust, that means you got to be somebody great to be called a bust, right? Because you got to have hype behind you already to say he was a bust, correct? Yeah. Like, nobody's going to walk in and say that average Joe's a bust because he was a no. So for me, that's what I had to learn. It took me years to let go of football because I was angry that I didn't make the Pro Bowl, or I didn't make as much money as I wanted to. And that's the mistake I made.
That's the ego, though.
That's the ego. But see, now you let go of it and you learn from it.
Well, dude, this is something that I've learned over the years is because I kind of had a similar mentality. That very you have such high expectations for yourself, and you keep yourself you hold yourself so accountable. And you start thinking things are, you don't reach these expectations. So you start thinking that you're a failure, or that that you weren't as good as you were. You could have been greater. You have these like feelings of remorse and guilt. But what you're really doing is you're robbing yourself of, one, what you did. Because 100%. What you did is astounding, like you in particular and other people out there.
Not to cut you off though, but I saw on your Instagram that you were all decade team on your school. Let's talk about that for a second, man.
Yeah, that's
impressive, bro. I saw you all decade team on your college. I don't care what college you went to. Yeah. Not to break your train of thought, but I mean, you accomplished some high accolades in football yourself, man.
Yeah, man. I was a guy that had a shit ton of hype out of high school. Like I made. First team Associated All Press 2 years in a row in Pennsylvania. I could have went, it'd be easier for me to tell you the schools I couldn't have went to than the ones that I could have went to, or than I could go to. And there was a lot of hype behind me going places. And for a while, when I went to the University of Pittsburgh, I didn't play for the first 3 years that I was at Pittsburgh. I didn't play. And some of it I had an injury. Some of it, I was my own worst enemy. And then there was some other thing, I could point to different things. My recruiting coordinator at the time left right after my first year, which is important, for you young guys out there.
100%.
For you young guys out there, the guy who recruits you is important because he's the guy in the film rooms.
100%.
He's in the coaching rooms that when it's coming down to deciding this guy over this guy, those guys are fighting for you because they recruited you so it looks good for them. So you got guys fight. So that's important. But I could look at all these different things and blame why I didn't play. And I was hard on myself because eventually I came to the realization, like instead of blaming other people, I blame myself. Instead of pointing the finger at this and that and being hurt or this guy, like, politics and this, all the different excuses that come with, I pointed the finger back at myself. And I said, if you're really this guy that you say you are, if you're this guy that holds yourself accountable, this guy that is just like trying to be the 1% of 1%, like you would have these things that you said that you wanted, right? And maybe that's an unreal expectation to have, but that was my thought process. And so when I made the decision to transfer from Pitt to IUP, Indiana University of Pennsylvania, for those of you who don't know, I decided that I wasn't blaming anybody else anymore, and I was only blaming myself. And when I did that, it changed my life.
Good for you, man.
And I was able to, when I went to IUP, I was able to flourish there. I was able to be my truest self. I was able to end up becoming those things that I was supposed to do. And like IUP is a Division II school, and there's a stigma that's behind being a Division II athlete. But once you get to that top level of Division II, once you get in the playoffs, it's just all Division I guys.
There you go.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, and IUP is a very storied Division II program. So I was super honored to be named on that list, especially
Heck of accomplishment, man.
Yeah. So I was very proud. I was very honored to be a part of that list. And, it just came through, years of hard work and discipline. Just kind of came to that culmination of, especially that last season that I had with that team. It was just, we were one game away from the national championship.
That's awesome.
And, I was a leader on that team. And that was honestly above being an All-American, above being, Gene Upshaw Award finalist, and then even above, that All-Decade Team Award. The thing that I'm most proud about that year is being elected team captain by my peers.
That's awesome. You're right. That's awesome.
To me, that means more to me than anything, because that means I was a guy, because in football, like, it's all alpha males on a team.
100%.
It's all egos. And like, if you're going to be barking and demanding people to hold themselves at like accountable and hold themselves to a level of excellence, you can't have any holes in your preparation,
100%.
because they'll find them and they'll point them out and they'll be like, see, look at you did this, or you didn't do this. So like, that was being a leader was one of my, being a team captain was one of my greatest accomplishments, because that meant, what was it, 50, I don't know, 180 guys, I forget how many guys, 80 guys on the squad. 80 guys on the squad thought that I should be I should represent them. I should be the guy that goes out at the coin toss. I should be the guy that like corrals them when they need to be. And I took that job very serious. I love that, to be that for my teammates. I like being able to lift people up, you know what I mean? And motivating people and holding people accountable. Because I'm crazy, so I'm not afraid of confrontation.
Yeah.
Because I remember the very first football team I was on, Bay City Spartans. And we ended up being really good. We were a really good team. We had some really good athletes. That next year I was on a team that wasn't that good. And nobody kind of stood up and like demanded that we play good. You know what I mean? And I hate losing.
Oh man.
But I wasn't mature enough at the time to realize that like no one else was doing it, so I should have done it. But I remember that feeling that I had, and I just was like, I'm not ever going to let that happen again.
Wow.
And so from that point on in my career, like in my football career, if I felt like people's energy was down, if I felt like people weren't like holding themselves, like they weren't holding themselves to the standard necessary to be, a champion, I was going to call you out. And in that process, I had to hold myself to that same standard, which drove me even harder to be in the weight room, drove me even harder to be in the books, to watch film, and to give effort and to never give up.
Wow.
So like, to me, all that, the all-decade team was great. But like, being a team captain was the greatest accomplishment I've ever had.
That's just listen to you speak right now, man. Just it like flashes stories through my head, and I just reminisce on stuff. And first of all, I gotta say I couldn't agree with you more.
It's rare in this world, dude. It's rare, and I see it as I get older and I get into other jobs and other professions outside, like leadership. Like,
you're a born leader, man.
Leadership is a highly underrated skill, and it is hard to find. And
because you can't fake it. You can't fake leadership in my eyes. Like you just said, I think I was also elected a captain my senior year in college. And I think what that shows, like you said, is you earn their respect for them to tell you you're our leader. Yeah. And like you said, what you touched on earlier, a football team is all alpha males. You ain't, for an alpha male to get submissive, that has to be somebody they look up to, somebody they admire them on and off the field, their work ethic, the way they approach the game, the way they approach the way they approach everything in life. Yeah. And it's funny you say that, because when I was elected captain my senior year, I remember that my first thought process was that I didn't let them down, meaning that I worked so hard for 2 years as a starter and I accomplished so much in those first 2 years in college that they looked to me to lead them. And I took that as, like you said, motivation and as a compliment, right? And I remember I could refer to, let's just fast forward to 2009 real quick, everything you just spoke about. In Tampa Bay Buccaneers, we were you also touched on earlier about your coach in college that recruited you left. People asked me what was my turning point in my career in NFL, and it was the day that Coach Gruden got fired from Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He was who drafted me in the second round. I was his guy. He loved me. And I look back now, when they fired John Gruden, they pretty much cleared house. That's when they let go of Derek Brooks, Cato June, Warwick Dunn, Ike Hilliard. You don't really, in my eyes, I thought you don't let go of a guy like Derek Brooks. He helped build the franchise. But to fast forward to 2009.
It's a business, bro.
It's a business. You're 100% right. And I didn't know that. I was only 25.
Right.
And at that time, you just said something about leadership. And I remember 2009, we let everybody go that was the leader the year before, literally, because they were getting too old, they said, in NFL standards, correct? But all of a sudden, we had a whole bunch of young, up-and-coming stars, they said. Okay. I was in that category that they put the hype on. I had the banner on the stadium. I had my jersey sold for 2 years. They pulled me in the office telling me, listen, Piscitelli, we want to make you the face of the franchise. And all that's great at 25. And you're on cloud nine, right? But I look back at 2009, and we had no leadership from within. The Derek Brooks was gone. The Warwick Dunns were gone. And I will tell you this right now. I never had a worse feeling on a team in that locker room than I ever felt in my entire life. And that's a bad feeling. And just to kind of piggyback on what you said about how you took pride in a leadership in a team is so important. It's so vital to winning that people don't realize that. You could take the top 12 or the top 11 alpha starters on offense and the top 11 starters on defense, and if they're not on the same page and they're not clicking and there's not a leader that's taking charge, I'm telling you right now, it doesn't matter how good you are. So kudos to you being a captain of your team, because honestly, man, like you said, Dan, that's an incredible accomplishment from so many levels, man.
Greatest team game ever, football.
By far.
The skills that you learn as a football player will care if you commit to football, if you commit to being, even if you don't go further than playing in high school, because a lot of you out there that are listening to this, you may never get past, most of you probably won't get past football. And if you're privileged enough to be able to play in college, great. Those skills that you learn, that the character that you build, the camaraderie, learning how to work with other people, learning to know when to take the lead, and more importantly, knowing when to take a step back.
100%.
Because to be a great leader, you have to first become a great follower.
Yep, I agree.
And like there's a time and a place for everything, and you learn all of those things in sports, and you do that under great stress.
Yep.
And that stress creates anxiety. But like game time comes, it doesn't wait, no matter how much anxiety that you do have. And when it comes and you play and you compete, that anxiety goes away, and then you perform and you do your job, and you either win or you lose. But at the end of the game, you learn that anxiety ain't shit.
Nothing.
That ain't shit. And that you went and you competed. And if you gave your all, whether win, lose, or draw, you know that you can accomplish anything. You can do anything you set your mind out to, no 100%. Matter how scary, no 100%. Matter how daunting it may be, you know that you have what it takes to do it. Yeah. And that's what team sports, that's, in my opinion, that any type of sports, team sports in particular, we're talking to football, just because I believe that football is the greatest team game that there is. And it's a skill set that I think every single kid should play and learn. And even if you only play till high school, man, don't ever take that for granted, because it doesn't matter if you're done, if you're done when you're 18 or if you're done when you're 30 years old. Like at some point,
it will always end for everybody. That's for sure.
At some point, someone's going to tell you, son,
can't play no more.
Hang it up.
And
the
you know
game's
what?
Over.
I 100% agree with what you just said about football and the team camaraderie. But I actually think sports in general for kids growing up is so important, is so vital, because it teaches you so many avenues of life.
Now more than ever.
More than ever now. And I think like all I knew, all I cared about was sports. All I ever dreamt, talked, anything was being the best I could be at that sport at that moment, right? And it molded me into the man I am today. Yeah. It really is. And
I agree.
I say that in a business aspect of me. Anything that I think I flourish in is because of the way I was molded in sports. It kept me out of trouble. It kept me, some of the best friendships I have are from my high school football team. Some of my best friends I have are my college football team. And I think if I had to pick one, the most purest game was college, from the camaraderie of it.
Yeah.
The team chemistry, the love, the support, the leadership. And it's the reality that the NFL is a business. It's a multi-billion-dollar business. And when you get there, you feel that. But in college,
those are your informative years, bro.
Exactly.
You're growing, you're coming in you're coming in with a group of dudes who are boys. Because you may have a man body, but you're a boy when you're 18 years
100%.
old.
In college, you're not ready.
You're not. No. You think, you just got done getting grounded.
Yeah.
That's why you just got done getting grounded, bro. You're not a man yet.
You can't go from high school to NFL and football. That's the only sport you can't go from. That's why basketball, maybe you can, but football, there is no way. I don't care who you are. There's not an athlete in the world I personally think is ready to go from high school football to the NFL. You'll be done. So like you said, you turn in from a boy to a man in those 3 or 4 years.
And you do it with a group, you know what I mean? You do it with your teammates, right? You got older guys on the team that you can look up to if you got a good team. Then you got the young guys that you came in with, that you grow with.
100%.
And then hopefully you got good coaches that can kind of
that stay with you.
That teach you. Yeah, that stay with you and they teach you, you know what I mean? They teach you how to learn. They teach you how to be tough. The coaches, they push and they press, and a good coach knows how to push all your buttons to get the most out of you. And then you got your teammates that you're coming up with, and you just develop a bond with them. You know what I mean? You've got a group of men working towards a common goal, and like that does something to you.
100%.
That does something to you that's invaluable.
Invaluable.
That you can't
You'll
get
never learn
anywhere
it.
else. Nope. And I say men, but it also, women too for sports,
100%.
whatever sport,
Yeah.
the female sports as well. It's the same thing for women. It's all the same. It's just get into a competitive, to be a fully well-rounded human being. You got to, find some sort of art, find some sort of art that you're into, you know what I mean? Whether it's performance art, poetry, drawing, painting, writing, do whatever, find your passion, find your study, then find some sort of competitive endeavor. And like, that's how you really fully round yourself as a human being.
I agree. I listen, I can agree with you more. And I think we could talk about this for hours and hours and hours, because we both played. And I also think that this might not be a time to touch on this, but I think this is a story in itself, how vital coaches are to little kids, young men, teenagers, on how they mold themselves into men. And I think I didn't really realize how a coach can dictate a negative or a positive reaction of a child, like you said. I think it's so important for children to be in sports, but I also think it's so vital what coaches' impact they have on young athletes, high school athletes, college athletes, and even pro athletes. And I think sometimes these coaches have to realize the kind of impact they have on a 6-year-old or a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old or a 50, or even a guy, 18-year-old. Because I know personally, through my career, there's a lot of factors that are out of your control in your career. You know that. Yeah. We all been through that, correct? But having a coach and a good relationship with a coach, I think, is very, very important. Very important. And I know my defensive coordinator in college, why I was very, very fortunate and blessed to have a great college career for a couple of different reasons, was one, I was in the same defense with the same staff. And I was lucky to go like this because literally my defense coordinator was like my second dad. I would go to his house every weekend. His wife and they would cook me dinner. We'd have a Sunday dinner together.
Got a coach like
we watched football together. And at the time, I appreciated it, don't get me wrong. But then when I went to the next level and I didn't have anything even close to compare to that, I realized the impact that coaches can have on student athletes negatively and positively. So I've always wanted to, and I think I will one day, I want to write a book because we've been through a lot, you know, even us as young men now. I mean, I'm 36 and I've been fortunate to be in 2 different professional industries. I've been blessed to be in NFL and I've been blessed to be in the WWE. And you see things and you grow from things. But I also think it's very important that we touch on coaches, because sometimes coaches, they take the wrong approach. And you could probably tell me some good coaches and some bad coaches you had, and we all can go through it.
I'm glad you brought this up. What would you tell young kids that are fortunate enough to go from the high school level to the college level in the recruiting process? What would you be telling them to be looking for while they're being recruited by these schools? Because I can tell you, I did this recruiting process by myself. I didn't have my parents with me because they didn't know, and I was off on my own doing it, and I had a little bit of help from coaches, but I was trying to figure this out, making major life decisions on my own. And I wish I would have had somebody or something to kind of tell me, what to be looking for. What would you tell these young men and young women? What would they be looking for when they're going to that next level? What are the important things to be looking for?
Well, the first thing I would say, because I think we all make this mistake, is don't look how big the stadium is. I think I did that. I think we all did that. I think as a student athlete, you need to look at 3 things. You need to look at education, and I mean this from the simple fact that, like you said, how many people are going to make it to the next level, right?
Very few.
1.001%. So when I say education, pick something that you can enjoy chasing your dream, but get a good education. Number 2, I felt like, for me, write down and make your mind up what you want to be, in a sense where I know everyone wants to be in the NFL, right?
Yeah.
But what do you have to do to be in the NFL? Don't go to a school because it's a party school. Don't go to a school because you think there's a lot of hot girls. The best thing that ever happened to me, true story, was I went from Florida, South Florida, some of the prettiest girls in the world, to Oregon State, Corvallis, Oregon, in the middle of nowhere. I'm telling you right now, I was so focused that I had nothing but the focus was on football.
You don't even know if there's a girl or a dude because they're covered. They got a raincoat, rain jacket on. You know what I mean?
And I look back now and I'm like, I wanted to go to Florida State. And if I went to Florida State, I would have never molded into a 6'3", 225, running a 4'3", 4'4", 40 at safety, because I wouldn't applied myself as much as I did and dedicated myself. So I guess the question what you asked was, go to a school that is going to allow you to focus on your craft, focus on what you want to do. Listen, if you want to go to a school where it's a lot of hot girls, a lot of party, and play football, cool. If you think, okay, I want to play football, because the truth of the matter is this, Dan, when you go to a college and you dedicate yourself to a football organization, your college career or your college experience will not be the same as the student that does not play sports. And you and I both know that. So if you're gonna commit yourself for 4 years, at least commit yourself with a purpose, right? So I even tell some people when I went to college, like, they were out there messing around, doing around party. I said, what do you do? Oh, I'm not going to make the NFL. I would actually say, don't play college football, because if you want to experience college. But if you want to dedicate to your craft and mold yourself, go to a school that's going to allow you. If it's maybe being closer to home so you can go see your mom and dad on the weekends, if it's a school where, I don't know, maybe it's gloomier and dark where you have to kind of focus on just being in the weight room and studying, because sometimes you go to these schools, Arizona, Florida State. The reason why they're the biggest party schools in the world is because they're fun, and it's a lot of hot girls walking around.
Arizona State, dude.
Arizona State.
I took a visit to Arizona State, and I went there on my visit. My host showed me around. They had swimming pools outside the dorms. Bro.
Unbelievable.
I was walking through there and I go, I cannot go to school here because there is no way. I already had a hard time. I didn't really take school serious till my junior year. Wasn't really a school guy. It wasn't my thing. But I knew, I was like, I will fail out right away. There's like, I'm going to put my book bag on and go to class at 8 a.m. and I'm going to walk by and there's going to be some sexy chicks in a swimming pool. You think I'm going to make it to class? I ain't going to make it past this swimming pool.
Let me tell you something.
So I crossed them right up off the list. Off the list.
I'll tell you right now, I am so grateful that God put Oregon State in my life, because I'll be truly honest with you. When Oregon State called me, Dennis Erickson was the head coach at the time of Oregon State.
Okay.
And Dennis Erickson was a well-known name because of what he did with Miami, right? So he was a well-known coach. I didn't even know where Oregon State was. I got off the phone with him and Googled it, right? I looked at the stadium and I was like, I literally said to myself, that's okay, but that'll do. I read about it and I said, you know what? This is my biggest offer by far. All I said to myself, and I told my mom this, I said, I need to get my foot in a door in a big university and I'll do the rest. I remember sitting there saying to myself, I don't care about partying. I don't care about girls. All I care about is becoming the best college football player. And some other advice I would give is live in the moment. And I say that because everybody wants better, right?
Yeah.
Everybody wants to make it to the NFL, right?
Yep.
But nobody's living in what they're accomplishing in college. If you're even dressing for a Saturday game, that's an amazing accomplishment. Mm-hmm. If you're starting, if you're running down on kickoff, if you're playing a snap, that's a heck of an accomplishment. Live in it, soak it up, and live in it. But yes, it's okay to hold higher standards, but enjoy the moment. And I didn't do that. And I remember my mom telling me, Savvy, calm down. Look what you're doing at Oregon State. Look what you're doing at Oregon State. And no, I don't care. Play the NFL. I want to go to the NFL. I want to go to the NFL. And I remember, this is what changed me. Quick story was, you have senior night, last game of the season.
Yep.
So we had senior night, and I was the second to last guy to come out. The last guy was like a hometown hero. Never forget, his name was Joe Newton. He was a big guy in Oregon. So whatever. So they were announcing everybody one by one. And I don't tell a story to brag, but I tell the story to be humbled, but to tell you an example. So they're announcing everybody. All of a sudden, I step out, and they announce me. And Dan, I am not even exaggerating. The stadium erupted. And I'm talking about, I couldn't hear myself breathe. And all of a sudden, like I remember stepping on the thing, and the thing went, and it just, the whole place was so loud that I ran to the center of the field and I hugged my mom, I hugged my dad, and I was crying, and they were like, can you hear that? And I couldn't even, then all of a sudden I see the last guy run by me, Joe Newton. And I'm like looking around, and you couldn't hear his name get announced. And the reason why I said that story is this. I was entertaining those fans for 3 years. And they loved to watch me play. And I didn't appreciate it. Like I wasn't grateful to them because I was so worried about being a first round pick or a second round pick that I didn't appreciate how wholesome those fans were. And I get like goosebumps now, and I get a little tear up because I'll never forget that sound the rest of my life. And I remember that I was upset with myself because my career was over. I was about to go to the draft, and I didn't sit and soak up that I put on a show every Saturday in Oregon. And the people genuinely loved me. Like they genuinely loved me. And I just remember saying to myself, like, this is what my mom was talking about. So the best advice I would give a kid today going into college and college football or pursuing any dream of college, yes, set a goal for the NFL, set a goal for wherever you want to go. But please, every accomplishment you do, soak in it.
Yeah.
And just soak it up, because tomorrow's not guaranteed. Look at you in a car accident a month ago. It's not guaranteed. And those moments are little accomplishments every day that you got to pat yourself on the back and then get back to work. But you got to pat yourself on the back. Mm-hmm.
I always say, I had a coach teach me this, and I always say this now. I tell any of my, my young friends or anybody, even my old friends probably need to hear this too. Some of them, you get 24 hours to celebrate a win, and you get 24 hours to soak in a loss. And when that's up, then it's on to the next one.
Great advice.
But you got to enjoy the process, So to all you young kids out there, what my man Tino here is trying to tell you is don't be worrying about the equipment. Don't be worrying about the flashy gear, how many people go to the school, the size of the stadium. Find a coach that is going to fit your style of play, that is going to put you in the best position to get you to the next level if that's your goal, right? So if the NFL is your goal, you probably want to play for an NFL coach or someone that has an NFL style system. Then you want to make sure that you vibe with that coach. You know what I mean? That maybe his teaching style is going to be conducive. Because I've had coaches that I've loved to death. To this day, my favorite coach, guy was like, you know, I used to think he was like a big brother, but he's really like a father figure in my life. And I respect this dude so much. His style is not for everyone. There are certain kids, and he knows this, so he knows when he's recruiting certain kids. But like for you out there, you got to know certain coaches, the way they teach, they may be great coaches, but they just might not vibe. The personalities might not vibe. Yep. So you need to know that. You got to do your homework. That's why you got to talk to these coaches when you get the chance. Be face to face with them, and don't be afraid. You know, I know you're young and you're used to having authority kind of, you know better, and them to approach you and they kind of talk to you and you speak when spoken to. But like, you're entering a world of like half amateurism, half professionalism. And now it's time for you to take that next step. Question them, ask them things, ask them hard questions about, you know, how, you know, to get their personality out of them, and you be you around them. Be genuine around them so that they can see who you are, and then you can see how they react to you, because that's going to be very important.
That's the best advice, I think, right there. Vibing with the coaches, I think, is a number one thing.
Very important. Then another thing also, the school itself, the city, you know what I mean? The education. It's like, listen, it's going to end someday. Hopefully it doesn't end until you're 30 and you're rich and you got a pension and your 401k is fat. Pretty, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? And you ride off on the sunset forever and you got no more bosses. Whenever you do, you know, whatever it is you do it on your term. I hope that happens to everybody. But the reality of the fact is that that's not going to happen. So you need to set yourself up to be in the best position to win for life. And that is what Tino was saying. It was knowing what the school is you're going to, what they're good at, what, you know, whether it's business, 100%. Whether it's arts, whether it's science, whatever it is, you've got to be able to be in a place where it will facilitate those things for you.
Yep. That's great advice, man. It really
and then be intentional. Live in the moment.
Not
everyone gets to play in front of 20,000 people, 30,000 people, 50, even if it's just 10,000 people, you get to play in front of those fans every Saturday for 12 weeks, you know, every year. Like, just take that in, live in that moment, be present. Because the second you're thinking about the NFL, the second you're thinking about something other than where you're at, you're robbing yourself of the present moment. And then you're going to look back one day and you're going to be full of regret, wishing, oh, I wish I would have experienced this.
100%.
And I promise you, one of the greatest life lessons I ever learned was looking in a man's eye that I love dearly, who's older. And when I was talking to him about making a major life transition, asking him what to do, you know what I mean, whether I should go for it or not, which I already knew the answer, but I just needed to talk to the man, right? Because I love him and I respect him. He told me to go for it. Go for your dream. But when it's not the words that he said, but when I was looking at him in the eyes, I knew that he was telling me, because that's what he would have told him, his younger self, because he was full of regret.
That's awesome.
And there was regret in his eyes for him not taking the leap of faith to pursue the things that he wanted. And I promise you, there's nothing sadder than a man eyes full of regret.
So I want to touch on that for a second. You brought that up. I think regret will be the worst thing an athlete or a man in general will have to live with for the rest of their life. So one of my biggest advice I give now, and my thing is, I when I'm done, whatever it is I'm done with, I know I'm done with football, whenever I'm done with wrestling, I want to talk to kids. I want to give back. I want to publicly speak about this stuff, because one of the number one things I will talk about.
What we're doing right now, bro.
The number one things I will talk about is regret, and this is why I say this. Me personally, I always looked at me as an athlete was, I never want to look back and say, I wish I worked harder. I wish I applied myself more. I wish I went to the weight room more. I wish I studied in the film room more. I wish I was in better shape, because I knew I would never be able to live with myself knowing that. And you know what? those 5 categories were always checked. I was always the first guy in the weight room. I remember I used to work out group in the summer in NFL. I was the only guy that would show up on 4th of July or that day after 4th of July. Everyone would go out and party. I would show up. No, don't. And that's what they knew I was going to be special. They said to me. And I remember because I didn't want, every time I walked in the weight room, I wanted to outwork everybody. Not because I wanted to show off, because I wanted to look back and say, man, I would have had a better season if I just worked out harder or if I studied harder. So, and I say this to say this. Here's the fact, and this is the truth. This is the hard, cold facts that I'm going to say right now that we don't talk about when we're kids. But this is the truth. Especially when you get to college, and I think really when you get to the pros, if you get that privilege to get to the pros, there's going to be factors that dictate your career that will not be in your control. And I'm sorry to say, it just will not. But the things you can control is how hard you work, how hard you dedicate yourself, your effort, your determination, and your will to win. So my thing is this. You talked about your guy said regret. Don't ever regret not working hard enough, going to the gym, or applying yourself in a sense where if it doesn't make you better, don't do it. Because you will run into something in college where either the coaching staff will change, you'll be put in a scheme or an offense or a defense that doesn't fit your strengths. You'll be on a losing team. A coach won't like you for no reason at all. Especially when you get to the NFL, you might have a guy that was drafted higher than you that they're going to give a better chance to. I guess the point I'm saying is this. The things you can control, give 100% effort and no regrets. But there's things you can't control. Don't worry about those. Don't stress about those. But those you can live with. You know what I'm saying? Those you can live with because you know in your heart that you did everything you could to be the best player physically, mentally, and you approach the game at the highest level at all times. So that word you said, regret, just got me fired up a little bit because I look at some of the people I played with in the NFL, and as talented as they were, they couldn't stop smoking weed, or they couldn't stop going out every night. And that's okay. But if you have something that consumes you, that changes the outcome of what you worked for, you got to get rid of it, man, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. You know, so, and I don't care what it is. So for me, that's why when I say no regrets, please don't ever want to look back in your career and say, I wish I didn't party as much, or I wish I had the weight room more. So I'm glad you said that word, man, because you saw it in your mentor's eyes or whoever the guy you respect. Yeah. And I think he has to live with that regret. And everything I've accomplished, listen, I've accomplished tremendous amount of things, but I failed on the highest level. And I'll be the first to admit that. And I think everybody that's successful will admit they failed at one point. And I think that's what makes you a real man, when you can admit you failed. But the point is, when you fail, you have to learn to get back up and fight another day, right? Mm-hmm. And to continue to do what you were doing. Because it's
hard to beat a man that never gives up.
It's hard to beat a man that never gives up, 100%. And I think for me, you learn life lessons, right? And you learn that you got to humble yourself at sometimes. We all egos. We all alpha males. And one of my biggest things is I didn't humble myself one time. And I think we all been through it. And I think that's another advice I'd give a stud high school athlete or a stud college athlete. Listen. Humility. Now listen, when you step between those lines and that helmet goes click, click, no. They ain't no friends. You a bad man. Yeah. Now you a bad man. Right. You an alpha male. But when that thing goes and you take that helmet off, and you go outside those lines, humility, man. He who humbles himself will be exalted, but he who exalts himself will be humbled. And that saying got smacked in my face in my transition between NFL and WWE. Because you want to talk about humbling, and we can get into this. I know you're going to ask a question, but you want to talk about coming from the NFL, playing in front of 70,000 people and getting paid a lot of money, to going to NXT, where setting up chairs, setting up rings, performing in front of 50 people.
Yeah, you're talking about you're talking about when you first get into, to the WWE and the developmental program. We'll do these small developmental shows locally in Florida, maybe 2-3 hours away from Orlando, depending on what direction. And what Tino's talking about is when you get there, you set the rings up.
Yeah, and
you set the lights up. You set all the you do all the grunt work.
100%. Because you know what it is? you're starting over on a whole nother industry.
Yeah.
And listen, you got to start from the bottom of anything.
Yeah.
And that's where I think everybody has to have humility and humble themselves, because most people, even you were a very successful college football player, right? And everybody that comes through NXT or even in that next program, they were great at what they did before, and they mastered something. I'm sorry, they mastered their craft. Yeah. You mastered football. I mastered football. So now the reality is, you're not good at this. Yeah. When you first step through those doors, you're not good at wrestling. You're not good at entertaining. That's just a fact of the matter. So that is a humble pie, a humble pill to swallow per se.
Yeah.
So that's why I say keep that word humility around, because I don't care who you are, you will be humbled. That first round, Joe Burrow, who was the first pick of the draft on Thursday night, who went to Cincinnati Bengals, I guarantee you he will throw an interception and the guy will run it back 6 yards. There's 60 yards for a touchdown, and he'll put his head down, and that will be a moment of humility for him in a sense. You were the number one pick. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is keep that humility wherever you go, because if you're not, they'll humble you for you.
The world will humble you.
The world will humble you.
The world has it don't matter.
Funny way.
It don't matter how big, bad you are,
100%.
how brave you are, how much you're feeling yourself. The world will humble you.
100%.
So why don't we talk about? So why don't you explain that transition from football to wrestling, and like that time period? How did that make you feel? Like coming from, you know what I mean? You're top of the world, NFL athlete, 6 years, making mad money, cars, living good, high status, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
NFL, there's not really too many like other jobs outside of maybe, you know, politicians that have got more status, you know, and some of them don't have the same status as NFL players. So right. Like you've got all of those things, and now you're coming to the bottom of the barrel, which you've touched on. You're setting up rings, you're doing dirty work, you're driving to these armories, small little community centers, working in front of 100 people sometimes maybe.
Yep.
Doing something that you're not good at,
100%.
that you suck at, you know what I mean? Yep. And like you're putting a lot of effort in, but like that, just because you're putting a lot of effort in doesn't mean you're going to be good at something, especially at something like wrestling, because it is so unique, foreign art form that it doesn't matter how great of an athlete or how great of anything you were before you got there. Like you're at ground zero, and like you just got to put time in the game before you get good at it.
So you said it best, man, ground zero. And that's where you start. And I'd lie to you to say the transition wasn't hard for me. It really was. My NFL career actually ended very abruptly out of nowhere. I actually started my last game on national TV, had like 9 tackles against the Denver Broncos. And I walked out of that stadium that night, went into the offseason. And if you told me right there that was my last game ever, I would have looked at you and laughed hysterically. Just knowing I just never thought it was coming, and it did. I was out like that. No sign, not even a reason. Just all of a sudden, I was in that window where it was 6-7 years, too much money, you know, not a starter anymore. So we're going to draft young. He's too old. He's 30, you know, whatever it is. So mentally, I never accepted that. So I was training every single day, Dan. I was in elite shape. Actually, that was the time where I had the privilege to become really close with Ray Lewis, the mentor who changed my life from a mental standpoint. And it was the year they won the Super Bowl. I trained with Ray Lewis every single day. I had the privilege, literally every day we trained for 5 months, 6 months. We rode bikes 30 miles a day. We
One
worked
of the greatest leaders of men
all time,
almost arguably ever. So
he helped my transition. This is why I'm telling the story. So I tried to get back in the league. I thought my phone was ringing. I was looking at my phone every single day because I was like, there's no way my phone's not going to ring. I'd never been cut. I was a starter. I was a second-round pick. I was like, listen, man, I got to at least bounce around for a little while before my career ends. So for about a year, I worked out every single day. Every single day. I was in the best shape of my life. Never got the call. Year's over. Baltimore wins the Super Bowl. Ray comes home. I'm really close with Ray now. Ray says, listen, here's my agent. 1 more year. Let's go. So 1 more year. Phone never rings. I'm making phone calls myself. Okay, so fast forward, WWE approaches me. At first, I was like, no, guys, listen, I'm still trying to get NFL. If I'm not ready in 3 months, call me back. They called me back in 3 months, literally to the day. I said, oh, guys, let's sit down. We sit down, fast forward. I signed with them. And before I even start that story, I'm extremely grateful and thankful and humbled that WWE gave me an opportunity to continue to be a professional entertainer / athlete and fall in love with another passion, fall in love with another dream. So that being said, I'd lie to you to say it wasn't a very humbling experience in a sense where you start at the bottom. And I'm talking about the bottom of another industry, right? So you got to think, you master something to the highest level, and now you're not good at all.
Yeah.
And you really have to humble yourself. You have to go to work every day. You have to buy into a system that they tell you to buy into. And I was very grateful, and I felt like I bought in. You know, I felt like I bought in. And yes, the first time I went to set up chairs, was it hard? Absolutely. First time I had to set up a ring, yes, absolutely. You know, I went from getting escorted to my car when I was starting with the Bucks.
Police escort
to my car, to setting up an armory for 50 to 75 people. So if you're not mentally stable, if you're not mentally humbling yourself, you could really go off the deep end. You really can, because it's a mental struggle, you know. But you have an end game in mind. Okay, this is the end game. I'm in an incredible organization. It is a privilege to be in WWE. People's dreams is to be there. So I put all that aside and I bought into a system. I bought into something where I knew if I worked my butt off that I would get an opportunity to succeed at another professional industry on a TV base, or a sense where it would be literally, I could tell my kids that I performed in 2 different professional industries. So that as that transition started, it was hard because I was horrible. I don't know how your experience is, but for a year or 2, I was not good.
Right.
And that messed with me a little bit. And you take the coaching, you take the criticism. I don't read the media. I don't know about you. I stopped reading the media in 2009 when I was the face of the Bucks and I was blamed for everything. I just got bashed so bad that I was 25 and I wasn't ready for that. So I just got scarred. I just said, no, I'll never Google myself again. I'll never read the media. So I didn't read any of that, but that wasn't the hard part for me. The hard part was all the coaching that I wasn't good. In a sense where it was baby steps just to have a good match. And I remember the first good match I ever had was with Ty Dillinger. I'll never forget, Perfect 10. And I remember I went back to the curtain and I actually cried. I cried because I was like, wow, that was actually an okay match. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, I did it. 2.5 years of the struggle was tough.
It's crazy about wrestling because you've come in and you learn the technique first, how to do the moves and the sequences. You learn all those things in steps. Then you start learning how to like perform in segments.
Yep.
This part of the match, you know, the just in the most basic level for anybody that knows these insider terms. You know, a shine, a cut off, a heat, a comeback, the finish. Right. You learn it in each individual part. Then eventually you start putting those parts together. And then by that time, then you start having entire matches. But that process can happen anywhere from 6 months to like a year and a half in before you even start having matches.
100%. Yeah.
So like you're putting in all this work and you're not getting any results, not seeing any results, not getting any feedback back. And then it can be very demoralizing.
Demoralizing is a good word.
Because you don't get that satisfaction of having a good match. And like your first match that you think is good,
it's not good.
And in retrospect, it's you know what I mean? But it's good to you because you got reactions. And what happens is when you have that first time you have that match where you get those reactions, you feel good coming through the curtain the first time, you're like, oh, that's what I put in all this fucking work for.
See, and the thing is too is, as we're talking in this conversation, we're sitting here, right? It's not like every other sport in a sense where, like, I know you are too, just hearing you talk. I'm so competitive that knowing that I'm not good at something eats me up inside.
Yeah.
And that's because I was always my worst critic when I played football, right? Yeah. Like you said, you don't have to correct me. I already know I messed that up, right?
Yeah.
So when I got to the wrestling, and the thing is, like you said, there's so many moving parts to this. And I'll be honest with you, and I've told people this many times. I think professional wrestling, professional entertaining is one of the hardest things I've ever done because there's so many different aspects going into that ring. You're playing a character, right? You are in a choreographed movement somehow. You have to memorize things. You have to communicate. You have to be able to stay in that character the whole time. So it's something that it's not just go out there the moves. It's not just go out there and be the personality. It's not just go out there and put on a good match. It's a box of things that it takes time to master that. And I don't care who you are. You touched on earlier, it's the experience level that makes you great at it. You cannot cheat or fast forward experience. There's no substitute for it. I'm sorry. You can be the hardest working man in the world. Experience is experience, and you only get experience by wrestling. So, like you said, it was, I would say for a good two years for me, was a mental and a physical struggle, and I think once I got over the benchmark of yourself, then there's, you like just think you got phase one, and then there's 100 more phases you still got to go to. But you finally get good at phase one, okay, you go to phase two. You get good at phase two, you go to phase three. And I think the ability to continuously change and adapt is something that makes you a successful entertainer. And I think guys like us that are so competitive, we put more pressure on ourselves. I know I did. And I think was my hardest struggle, was not being good. You know what I'm saying? Not being good at the entertainment part, but growing. And as you grow, I think you will master something that you apply yourself to. I really do. I think you will continue to grow in something that you put your mind to. And once you have your mind made up that you want to be good at it, you'll be good at it. Yeah. And I think that's kind of like where we're at now. And obviously I could touch on my injuries and stuff like that. But the question you asked was just the mental struggle was for me, I think the best thing that happened to me
was sucking at first.
Was sucking and humbling myself.
Yeah.
I mean, and then everyone comes from different avenues.
Yeah.
Right. But I think just the reality of it, man, it's hard to make seven figures when you're 23 years old. And then, you start at the bottom of something. That's just the reality of it.
It's because most people don't start making seven figures until they're like 40, 50 years old.
See, we did it backwards.
Right.
I'll never forget, I brought my first Maserati home. And it was a gift to me because I said to myself, when I become a starter in NFL, I used to set a goal and reward myself if I got that goal. So I set a goal. I said, if I become a starter in NFL, I'll buy a sports car. And I became a starter after 2008. So I bought a Maserati. So long story short, I brought the Maserati home to my mom, 26 years old. I bring a $100,000 car home. My mom starts crying. I said, Mom, what are you crying about? What are you doing? She goes to me, she goes, where do you go from here? And I'll never forget she said that. She goes, where do you go from here? You only can go down. And I was like, Mom, what are you talking about? Ferraris, from Rolls Royces,
Yo, I gotta get me a Bentley, Mom.
But she was so right, because I'll tell you something, Dan. It's hard because I made the bulk of my money from 23 to 29, and I'm fighting every day to get back to it. But you almost do it reverse backwards. Pro athletes, especially in football, and here's the thing: is the windows is 3 years, and you see these big contracts on TV, right? That's like 0.0000001%. There's a stat, something like, I don't know the exact number, but it was like a crazy number that an NFL player never even signs a seven-figure signing bonus ever. So I got that coming out of college, right? So you look at life and you're like, okay, you're in your 20s making whatever, $1 million, $750,000, whatever it is, great money, whatever it is, $500,000 is incredible money, right?
Incredible money.
But how do you sustain that to your 30, 40, and 50? You really can't. So the best advice I got was...
You found a way.
Well, I'll tell you, my mom changed me, man. My mom is the most frugal person I met in my life. Frugal. And I remember she told me something. My grandpa told me something. Take care of two things in life: your name and your money. And I remember that my mom was so frugal, Dan. I would tell my mom I needed deodorant, and she'd be like, okay, next week it goes on sale, buy one, get one free. I was like, Mom, I need deodorant right now. Oh, no, it's on sale next week. I'm being serious. My parents cooked every single night. They're amazing cooks. They cooked every single night because I think they were too cheap to go out. That's a true story. Yeah. My mom would stretch $1 into $100. Long story short, I remember I'm 23, 24 years old, and what do I got to show up? They already know I make money, right? So I could almost fake it in a sense where I remember my financial advisor called me and said, hey, this year you live like you made $150,000, right? Now at 24, 25, that's a lot of money, right?
Oh yeah, it is.
So I looked, so he says, yeah, you live like you made $150,000. He goes, yeah, you made 9 times that though. I said, really? He goes, yeah. So I say that to people, you do that twice. and you can put away $500,000, $600,000. Now, your head start on life is so huge because you have a comfort blanket. And for me, it was always about my comfort blanket. I didn't care about. I did love a nice car. My big thing was a nice car and a house. That's it. And a nice couple of nice watches. But the problem is when you like everything, when you like nice cars, nice houses, nice watches, nice jewelry, going out and partying, nice clothes, now you're going to start getting in trouble, right? So I always tell people, man, you live so far under your means, you'll never be poor. And being rich to me isn't about making millions of dollars. Being rich to me is having a blanket in your bank account. Yeah. You can make $100,000. If you live like you make 50, you're comfortable. If you make 100, live like you make, or you make 200, live like you make 100. You're doing it right. And that's, for me, that was my biggest thing. And I remember my last year in the NFL, I invested, going into the offseason, I invested like 80% of what I made that year. And I didn't even know I was done. I thought I was about to sign a new deal. Can you imagine if I just spent that instead of investing? What if I just spent it because I just was living the lifestyle? Because my career ended like that, Dan. Like I'm talking about out of nowhere. That's why everyone goes broke, because they live a lifestyle that they can't sustain. So I always tell people, man, and I tell every young kid, even in this industry, when you start making money, listen, live like you're making half that and you'll never be broke. And that's my mom changed me when it comes to that. Like I know people in the NFL that made 3-4 times what I made and don't have $1 million in their bank account anymore. Like, oh, you made 15 million, you don't have $1 million in your bank account? You know what?
Right.
It makes me scratch my head, but it's the truth.
Hey man, people make $15 million and live paycheck to paycheck.
I remember, so I was in the NFL during the lockout year, and some of the guys were panicking they were going to get a check. I said, brother, what are you panicking for? Oh man, I need the first game check, man. I don't know if I can pay. So hold on, you live check to check?
Crazy.
You make $100,000 a check.
Crazy. Most people don't learn monetary skills.
That's
most people
100% right.
Most people don't know how to spend money or save money or how they should, go about with whatever, I got. Like you said, you invested 80% of your check.
The last year,
your last check, right?
I invested instead of spending.
You were living, you know what I mean? You were living like you made $150,000, but you really were making 9 times that.
It's crazy when you think about it.
And to be honest, unless you've got like a family, especially you were a single man at the time, right?
Single, 24 years old, $150,000. I'm rich. I can do whatever I want.
Dude, $150,000 as a 23-year-old, 22, whatever you were, dude, you can have so much and live so good. If you like going out, you could still go out. If you like whining and dining,
100%.
you can wine and dine. You got a girlfriend, you could spend a little bit of money on her. You can have all the 100%. Things that you want with that much. If you're privileged to make that kind of money, you can that's more than enough money to live a good life. But the problem is like we live in this culture, we live in this society where it's like we put so much worth on the material things. We put worth on money. We put worth on my car, on my house, on my jewelry, on this or that. Like I'm keeping up with the Joneses. And it's like and when I heard you say that your mom said, "Where do I go from here?" It's like there's so many places that you can go because money. Listen, I grew up poor, so I understand the importance of money. I get it. Money is important, but it's only so important, and it will not make you happy. It can make your life comfortable. It can make things.
It won't
easy.
Make you happy.
It will not make you happy.
100%. No.
You have to find other things, tangible things. You've got to find a purpose. You've got to find a hobby, a passion. You've got to find some sort of community service that you can give that is going to give you worth and give you value. Like the money is just a byproduct of all of those things. And if you're lucky enough to make a whole bunch of money, that's great. And you can live a different lifestyle. But if your worth and your value is in that money, like you can always have more money.
100%.
So you're never going to be satisfied with the money that you have.
Some of the almost unhappy people I know are multi-millionaires, man. And you couldn't be more correct with that statement. And the thing is, too, how a lot of these athletes get in trouble is you just said something, too, like keeping up with the Joneses, right?
So that's where that competition comes in.
So, for instance, let me give you an example, right? Let's say me and you are in an NFL locker room, right? Okay, let's say I'm making $1 million a year. That's a lot of money, right? Mm-hmm. No, it's not, because you're making $3 million. You're making $3 million. I want to make what Dan makes. So all of a sudden, Dan buys a new car, a Ferrari. Oh, I'm going to buy a Ferrari. No, you can't afford a Ferrari. I'm going to buy it anyways because Dan bought it. Oh, Dan got a new watch? Okay, but Dan makes 3 times what you make. See, the concept in the NFL locker room, people don't realize like and even I did it. Like, so here's an example, right?
Comparison is the ultimate
100%.
theft of joy.
So here's the funny thing too. I didn't even know how much money I was making in my 20s until I wasn't making it no more. Because you look back and you're like, man, it's kind of hard to make $500,000 a year. You know what I'm saying? So you're like, but when you're making it, you're like, okay, he's making $2 million, so $500,000 isn't that much. I got to get to his status. So again, here comes you not living in the present, not living in the moment. Here comes your ego of, I got to get better. And that's fine. Get better. Have a goal. But enjoy that you're making $500,000 and set it up correctly. But you said if you put your worth and your happiness in it, you'll be miserable. I'll tell you a funny story. The most miserable I've ever been in my life was the day that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers put me on IR. I got injured. I was depressed. I was so sad. I was in my couch. I didn't even want to get out of bed. And you know what? That was the most money I ever made in my life that year. It was the same year I was the most miserable. So right there, I knew that money doesn't, you said it could change comfort of your bank account, but if you don't obsess with something else, you're in trouble. Yeah. And that's a great point you made right there, man.
Let's get back to NXT, WWE. So 2 years in, finally having good, starting to have good matches, starting to feel some success. You're starting to get your stride right within the company, finding your character, which I don't think you ever really had trouble finding a character because you are a character.
That was probably the easiest thing that came to me.
You got this big personality. So that part of like being an entertainer was easy for you. Start getting the technical parts down, start finding a stride. Like, how was that process of the journey for you?
A struggle. I think, again, I think it was the struggle of the balance. I say a struggle because I think it was the balance of my expectations versus their expectations versus where I should be at that moment in my career. And I think one of the things that really helped me was when Triple H put me in a tag with Riddick Moss. Triple H pulled us both aside and he said that, Tino, what you need to work on, Riddick Moss is good at.
Riddy Mo,
That
boy's talented.
And he turned to Riddick and kind of said the same thing. He said, Riddick, what Tino is good at, you need to kind of work on. And I think Riddick was really good at the psychology and actually the pace in the ring, in the wrestling aspect. Mm-hmm. And I think that was really Mo's strength. I think my strength was kind of like what you touched on, was the ability to carry my character really well, to make the people believe that I believed who I was. And
that it factor.
That it factor, exactly. So I think by teaming up Riddick and myself, for me personally, it really helped me develop into slowing everything down, into becoming a better wrestler, to putting matches together better for like a psychologist standpoint of the match and to make it make sense and tell a good story. It was frustrating because I felt like, obviously Riddick's alpha male. Yeah. I'm an alpha male. I think it was actually probably, you're a big alpha male yourself, but at that time, I think it was probably the two biggest alpha males in the PC,
right,
who both thought they were the best athletes in the world.
Definitely. Well, that definitely was the case.
Yeah, so it still is the case. And the funny thing is, I feel like me and Riddick are actually better friends now that we don't tag anymore, but that's here and there.
Right,
but,
of course. Y'all be golfing all the time.
Yeah,
together.
So at that moment, it was definitely two alpha males, strong alpha males. And I remember having a talk with Bloom. And I remember him saying, listen, one of your alpha males have to step down a little bit. He goes, you're a little older, you're a little wiser, step down a little bit. I said, okay. And I did. And I think it actually helped me. I personally think Riddick taught me a lot. I'm actually grateful for me and Riddick tagging. I hope I returned the favor and taught him a lot. But I also was very frustrated because I felt like we didn't get an opportunity as a tag. Now I think Triple H,
similar.
Yeah.
Similar.
Yeah, you obviously you can tell your story after mine. I know you tagged with Riddy Mo, so you have that experience. But I think Triple H had a reasoning to put us together, and I think he got everything out of that reasoning. And I think when he thought it was time to let that go and both of us go on our way, it was time. And I think that's the kind of the frustrating part for me personally, because I was just clicking. I was hitting my stride. I was feeling so comfortable out there under the spotlight. I was feeling comfortable entertaining the fans. I loved the reaction that Tino, the character, was getting. And I remember when he broke us up, Riddick got hurt the next day, literally. And I felt really bad for him, but he had to do his surgery, and I knew he was going to be back stronger than ever. And I went off, and I had about a month run where I had a lot of singles matches. I had like 3 main events. I had 2 title matches. And I remember on 4 different occasions, 3 different coaches came up to me, and then another coach came up separately. And they all said, "This is the best I've seen you look. This is the best I've seen you look. And this is the best." And they all said it separately. They weren't even like talking to each other. And I was getting excited because that was the first time where I was believing my character. I was believing in myself. I was like, you know what? It's time. It's time for the world to see the it factor of Tino. And I remember I had Aleister Black for the championship in Gainesville. We had a 20-minute match, main event. And Terry Taylor was the coach. And it was my first, wasn't my first main event. It was my first singles main event for the belt. It was 20 minutes. And we went out there and put on a show. And Aleister helped me so much. And I remember walking through the curtain, and I just kind of was emotional. I remember Terry Taylor walked right up to me and goes, "This is the best I've ever seen you look, kid." He goes, "You're getting it." Went home that night. I remember they were saying about TVs that week. And I didn't know, but I thought Triple H had something about me and my singles position at NXT, maybe do something with me on NXT TV. I was laying in bed Saturday morning, I'll never forget, and Terry Taylor calls me again. And I was supposed to be off. And he says to me, he goes, "Hey, Tino, what are you doing?" I said, "Honestly, just getting up, coach." He said, "Hey, you want to be in the main event again tonight against Velveteen?" "I was so happy with your performance last night. I'm going to go Largo. I want to put you in the main event tonight." "Yes, sir." "Absolutely." Go up to Largo, face the amazing Velveteen Dream. Freak accident, man. Probably never happen again if you do it 1,000 more times. He went to drop kick me in his comeback, and he put his foot right in between the muscle junction of my pectoral muscle right here. And he pushed off as I kind of just like tensed up to give him a good brace. And I just felt something just like that. It didn't even hurt. I just felt it kind of almost disconnect and like spaz out. And I was supposed to get up and bump and feed in the characters that in the terminology we use, and I couldn't get back up. And I remember he knew something was up, and I said, "Just go up the top rope, hit me with something." Match was over. I rolled to the back. Long story short, tore pec. And it's just one of those things where you look at the time and you're like, wow, like you would just get, literally, I was the best I ever felt, physically, mentally, wrestling-wise. I had a long talk with Triple H maybe 3 weeks prior about, literally, we were in a room for 45 minutes, and he just spoke how he saw me, how he saw Tino, how he saw me in the company. And it was a one-on-one, man-to-man conversation because he knew I was there for 3 years, and I just asked him straight up. So this tore pec comes, and I just like, wow, man, the timing couldn't be worse, like literally. But then I'm a big believer everything happens for a reason. So I dusted off quickly. I got the surgery, one of the best surgeons in the world. Surgery went great. Literally one of the best. Guy comes in, looks great. Can't even tell I had a surgery. During this time, I was going to be out 6 to 8 months with a pectoral tear. So just from wear and tear, NFL, football, lifting, I had about 8 or 9 bone chips in my right elbow. I said, guys, I approached WWE. I said, listen, guys, I'm out for 6 months, 6 to 8 months. While I'm out, let's clean up my elbow. Pec will be great. I'll come back 100%. I'll feel great. Yeah, great idea. Called my doctor, who was the head doctor for the Bucks at the time. He was actually the head doctor for the Tennessee Titans at this time. He was in Miami. Calls me. I called him up. I said, "Doc, can you slip me in for a quick elbow scope?" "Yeah, anything you need. Just come down here Wednesday. We'll slip you right in. I'm busy, but we'll slip you in." Give him my CD. Looks at, okay, we're going to slip you in tomorrow. 30-minute surgery, in and out, no problem. You'll be home in 2 hours. Well, 30-minute surgery turned into about a 5-hour nightmare. On the last piece of bone, literally the last piece of bone, the tweezer they were using snapped off inside me and vanished.
Damn.
Vanished. They were tugging around in my arm for 4.5 hours to try to get a little metal piece out. They got it out. They got the piece out.
Man.
But in the process, they compressed my ulnar nerve. So I wake up, and I hear the doctors tell me, listen, Savvy, something went wrong, but we're okay. He says, it's not going to affect your recovery, just a little longer than we thought, blah, blah, blah. And I was still coming out of my state, but it was like I wasn't comprehending it yet. I wake up, and I am in tremendous pain. I mean, I can't feel my hand, tremendous pain. I demand the doctor to come back in because I'm like, listen, I said to the nurse, I said, this is how I make my living. This is my temple, like we talked about earlier. I've been taking care of my body since I was born. I work out so I made him come back. He sits down in the room for about 20 minutes, tells me what happened. I said, what do you mean a machine broke off in my arm? Yep, broke off in your arm, et cetera, et cetera. Didn't think anything of it. He said, you'll be fine. Promise. About 2 months goes by. I can't feel my hand. Hit your funny bone. Times that by 10 all day long. I couldn't sleep. I literally woke up middle of the night, 3 nights in a row crying. I'm not even afraid to admit I was crying because it was that much pain. So long story short, 3 months later, I had a third surgery. The third surgery was the best neurosurgeon in the world, or country, to move my ulnar nerve permanently to decompress my nerve so my hand can come back. But the problem with compressing a nerve is they have no idea how long it will take to come back. It could be 3 months, 6 months, a year. It could be 2 years, depending on how bad the nerve was compressed, which they really can't tell.
Right.
So I had the surgery, the third surgery. WWE is standing behind me, very grateful. I come out of surgery. It was a great surgery, really quick. And the doc says, we just wait. Like nothing you can do. Here's the most frustrating thing, Dan. Can't do rehab. Can't lift. Can't massage it. Nothing speeds up the recovery, but the nerve is mind of its own time. Exactly. So now WWE Universe is asking, where's Tino? Tore his pec. Where'd he go? I literally was put on the shelf for, I would say, an extra 14 months from this nerve. And you talk about a mental struggle. You talk about depression, anxiety. I learned during this process, us pro athletes, you, me, 90% of pro athletes, we are very, very obsessive personalities because we obsess with becoming great with something. So when you have nowhere to put your obsessive personality, you get anxiety, you get depression. And that's a real thing. And to be honest with you, Dan, I personally used to kind of look at people weird and be like, oh, I got depression pills. I got to be on medication. Come on, man. Toughen up. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's your mentality you're taught when you're a kid.
Right. Suck it up.
Suck it up, man. Come on. But no, it's really a chemical imbalance in the brain. And I experienced it. And I fought back for a year. I went to therapy. I'm not afraid to admit I went to therapy. I got my body back in elite shape and I made a return.
So what happened over that? Because I was around during this period. I saw all of these things starting to happen to you. You know what I mean, from the mental and emotional side. So what exactly happened to you, or how were you? What made you make the decision to get a therapist, to see a therapist? Because that's not a manly thing to do.
It's not.
I mean, like,
it's not.
Men aren't supposed to see therapists. Men are supposed to be tough. They're supposed to suck, rub some dirt on it. But I mean, we're humans, you know what
Absolutely.
I mean? So it's like we all go through some shit, and listen, don't be too humble yourself.
It's humility.
Don't be too big to like better yourself, right? So like, what was it that you were going through, the depression, the anxiety? What was the final straw that kind of was like, hey, I need to seek someone so I can kind of get out of this funk?
It's funny because the anxiety was starting to scare me a little bit. The depression, I felt like I was getting a hold of it, but the anxiety was starting to scare me. And then WWE had some therapists come to the PC and talk to the NXT, and they asked me personally. They said, "Listen, we know you had 3 surgeries last year. Would you be interested in seeing a therapist?" I said yes with no hesitation. Yes. So they set me up, and I went to this guy named Matt who was in Orlando, and I went once a week I went twice a week, I think, for a little bit. Then I went once a week for about 6 months. And it really helped. It really did. It helped from the sense of just speaking to somebody and calming your nerves down. And it's not that it wasn't more of like I need you to help me to make my next decision. It was more of about just listening to what I have to say and maybe responding here and there. I think another thing that helped me a lot is meditation. I think the 2 things that got me. So the funny thing is, when I was hurt last year, when I was out last year, it was a mental struggle from a lot of avenues, but a lot of good came out of it. I'll tell you why. We talked about football for a little while on this podcast. The truth is this: I let go of football last year for the first time in 5 years. I let go. And I'll tell you the scenario I let it go, and what helped me was meditation and therapy. And I'll tell you what happened. I was on the field, and this is a true story. I was on the field for Rondé Barber was inducted into the Hall of Fame for it's called the Ring of Honor for the Buck Stadium. So I got invited. So I'm in the tunnel, and now, again, I didn't watch football for 3 years when it was done, and I couldn't even enjoy a game for maybe 4 or 5 years. I was so bitter. So I'm in the stadium and we're about to go off on the field for halftime. And I'm literally in the tunnel, Dan. And I look to my right. And I look to my left. I got Warren Sapp, Derek Brooks, Mike Allstott, Warwick Dunn, Rondé Barber, Trent Dilford. And I'm looking. We walk out. And I'm standing in the middle of the field. And I look up. I look around. I see 50,000 fans. And I was like, wow. I played with these guys. Like, I did it. And I literally remember all the anger I had of not making as much money as I wanted to, or not playing as long as I wanted to, or not making a Pro Bowl. It just went like this. It fell off me. And I remember sitting in the middle of in the field, and I smiled, and I was so happy because for the first time, not the first time, but for the time, I really realized I accomplished something special. And you know what it is? Nobody could ever take that from me. People want to judge my career. People want to judge I didn't live up to what everyone hyped me up to be or whatever, but nobody could ever take away my accomplishments. And that second round pick, I started in the NFL. I played with the greats. I was there and I let it go. And I remember letting it go. And I felt like because I was meditating and I was living in the moment, and I was in the present moment with the therapy and the meditation, it allowed me to let it go, and I let it go. And that was a big hurdle for me last year. So then you asked me, about the therapy. So then I felt like at that moment in time, I said, okay, just like we talked about, I put 4.5 years in a craft in WWE. There's no way I'm not going to display what I learned and what I mastered. So at that moment, I came back and I worked my butt off to get cleared, and I fought these doctors to clear my nerve, and we're in the current situation we are today.
Yeah.
Which,
Right. That's so just real quick, touch on, we talked about not being, for people out there, not living in the future, right? Staying in the present moment. But that goes for living in the past as well.
100%.
You know what I mean? What 100%. You did was you had a breakthrough because you let go of something that was in the past.
100%.
And like it brought over you this sense of joy, this peace. You know what I mean? You came to like this place of happiness, no longer judging yourself for something that, you thought you could have done better, should have got more out of. Like you just looked back at it and you were like, I did this. And this was freaking awesome. I did something that the majority of the human beings on this planet will never do. Yep. And I did it, and I loved it, and I'm proud of it, and I'm ready to move on. Yep.
And I let it go. And what's crazy you said about the past? Joe Dispenza, who I listen to a lot on YouTube, the meditation doctor, the doctor all about the brain, he says 75% of the time we're living in the past. And when he said that to me, and then he said, when I was listening to his YouTube video and he was saying that, like a little light bulb went on with me, that you're actually allowing past experiences, past people in your past, exes, coaches, if you do not let them go, they're actually dictating your mood today.
Right.
They're dictating how you enjoy life today. And then when I heard that, I was like, I almost pulled my car over. I was listening to the car and I was like, wow, because it's the truth. Like I was letting football, like I couldn't enjoy a Sunday anymore. And I look back, I'm like, why did I do that for 4 years? So like you said, you're a very good point. That's why living in the present is very important. But like if you don't let go of your past, it will haunt you. 100% haunt you.
Oh yeah, man. What is your meditation? Because I have my own little meditation practice that I do every day. And so what is your meditation process look like, if you don't mind sharing?
So I was very routine for a while. I actually broke my routine a little bit the last couple weeks. I would say weeks. I got to get back into it now with the whole quarantine and kind of going back and forth from my house in Tampa, my house South Florida. But when I felt my best, my routine was I'd have a little morning routine. I would get up, I would make a fresh juice, I would clean that up, and I would literally go out back and I would kind of build my time. And listen, I'm not afraid to admit it. People joke around about the ability to, obviously attention, ADD, they make a joke, but like it's hard for me to sit there for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes to really be. So I started small. I went, 10 minutes, 12 minutes, 15 minutes. And I built up I would say every week I would add 2 minutes to it. Okay. So I got up to about 25 minutes. But mine was just, everybody has their different techniques. Mine was more, I would put a timer on and I would literally not allow myself to open my eyes until the timer went off. But I would just go through phases of breathing. I would go through phases of what I wanted to accomplish that day, phases of what I wanted to accomplish in life, how I visualized my life. And I would just kind of bounce around. Sometimes I just let my mind just kind of wander, bring it back. And I remember learning that the art of meditation is not thinking about something. You're always going to think about something. It's about the ability to bring it back to the present moment.
Let that thought kind of pass through
100%.
instead of holding on to it.
So that's where I felt the most comfortable. And I remember people were coming up to me during that time. I was really hitting it hard every morning, was just saying that your presence was different. You're happier. And I think knowing that makes me excited to continue to work in meditation and go forward with it. And I'll be the first one to say the last couple of weeks I haven't been that good with it because I actually got a new puppy, and he's up at 7 o'clock and I'm taking him out, feeding him, cleaning his cage. So it kind of breaks my morning routine a little bit, but that's no excuse. So I got to get back to it. But I know for a fact when I'm consistent with it and I'm in a routine, I 100% feel the difference. Mm-hmm. I could definitely state that right now.
Hell yeah. So you come back from injury, 4 years, you got a skill set, right? You got this skill set.
5 years now. I'm 5 years.
Yeah, 5 years now. So you're coming back from this injury that was only supposed to be 6 to 8 months, ended up being, 2 years, right?
2 years, almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years. And you decided, I'm not done with this.
Nope.
I got a skill set. I want to monetize this. I've got value to add to this world. I want to give value to the world, and I'm not done with this yet. So you come back.
Absolutely.
Come back, you start training, you're in the performance center, getting back into shape, into wrestling shape,
so
getting into the groove, your timing and all of those things.
Yep. So like you said, there was a lot behind the scenes too, because I play a character that is an elite athlete. It's who I am, but I play a character who's an elite athlete who's in elite shape, mentally and physically. And you have to get there physically to get there mentally, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So if I don't feel, and that's the thing in this industry, it's a believability aspect. If I play a character, I better feel it, right? So now I'm in a situation where 3 surgeries, getting a little older. Okay, well, you either look in the mirror and say, let's go, or you don't. And I had to look in the mirror and say, let's go. So I got myself back into elite shape, mentally and physically, to play a character that I believe in, that I believe has an it factor, that I believe that fans don't like or like. But that's the most important thing, is that it draws them to this fan. And that's where I think is something special. And I believe that to this day. So I worked my butt off. I came back. And the truth is, I was grateful for the opportunity to come back. But the best thing is, I didn't need to come back, in a sense. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to come back. And I think when you want to be somewhere, you approach that differently too. You know what I'm saying? There's a different passion in that. So I wanted to be back, and I was so excited to be back. So I came back and I got cleared. Got cleared by all the doctors, and I started working live shows. Bloom put me on a couple live shows, and it was fun to be back. Yeah, my timing was a little off, but that was to be expected. Yeah. We did a couple promos, and he was really excited. I remember he called me in the office literally after my first gauntlet match. I had 3 matches in one, couple promos, and he actually said to me that him and a lot of the coaching staff was very impressed at how good I looked on the first time back after 2 years. He was really excited. I remember him telling me, all right, it's time to get up out of here. Let's go. He was very excited. He was very encouraging. We sat and watched a couple matches together, and I went off on my way. And the more and more I performed, the more and more I got the itch to keep going. And then I had a couple little feuds with Denzel. Got my first chair shot in. And that was actually the show I watched you. And I thought your improvement was unbelievable. I thought you looked amazing in the ring, by the way. From every aspect, but I was excited to be back that night, and that was, as of now, my last match that we've had since this quarantine's gone on. But obviously, a lot's happened right now with this coronavirus.
Right.
That's been unfortunate for a lot of people's jobs, careers, health, everything. This coronavirus has affected the world I don't think any of us saw coming.
No,
we really didn't, and I didn't see it coming. And I know the news has broken social media that WWE and NXT and Tino Piscitelli has parted ways as of now. And I haven't really been on social media yet. I haven't been on Instagram about it or Twitter about it. Kind of let it all soak in. Yeah. I had a long talk with Canyon Seaman and Matt Bloom about the situation. I don't think they agreed with the situation or happy with the situation because they know what I went through to come back. But again, you know, Vince McMahon had to forlow and let go of, I think, like 35 or 40% of the employees, 40% of the employees. And I got caught in that 40%. And I know I've been out 2 years and I'm not on TV with NXT, but I believe I could bring something special to this industry. So this is not going to be the end all be all for by any means. But that being said, you know, I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity they gave me, but I'm far from done, you know, and that's the mindset I have, you know, and that's just being the reality of it. I'm just bred differently, and I'm bred differently from a sense where, we touched on it earlier too. I am not gonna put all my effort into a craft and try to master a craft and inherit and get these skill sets.
Just throw it to the wayside.
And throw it to the wayside. And that's something that I'm now very, very, I guess the word is determined, because, you know, I understand that this is situational, and I understand they had to let some people go because of the situation.
Yeah.
But I don't think you let a guy like Tino go. In a character presence, I'm saying.
Hell no, bro. Hell no. You don't let Tino go, bro. You don't let Tino Piscitelli go. You know what I mean?
That's just the confidence that I hold with my character. You know what I'm saying? And that's something that...
But that confidence comes from a real place.
But it's a real place. But I think that's what this industry is about the believability.
Yeah, for sure.
Of making everybody know that you believe what you are. And I remember... I'll never forget, Mark Henry was talking to a group of us at WrestleMania about 3 or 4 years ago. And I just kind of like stumbled upon this conversation. I was standing in the back, minding my own business. And the best thing I heard him is the only thing that stuck out for me. I listened to about 20 minutes. And the thing he said to me, he goes, the one thing he said, guys, listen, the most important thing is this. When you walk through that curtain, you better believe who you are. Because if you don't believe, they won't believe. And the thing is this, I believe, or I know Tino Piscitelli is one of the most elite athletes to ever step foot in this industry. You can Google me. This isn't he say or he.
I remember the first time I saw you move when I came here. You know what I mean? Because I love watching people. I love watching people move. I have a passion for watching the body move in space. And I remember the first time I saw you run. And I was like, "Oh, damn, that boy is on another level. like you can run, bro."
Where'd you see me run? Like in the turf?
Yeah, it was just in the performance center, and that performance center turf's only what, 30 yards? Yeah, 30, 40 yards, something like that. But I just saw you just take off and glide. I'm like, "Oh, damn!" And then I saw you jump, and I was just like, "Damn, this boy's got some next level explosion athleticism." Yeah. So, like, without a doubt, easily one of the best athletes to be signed ever by the WWE.
Yeah, and that's something that...
But more importantly than that, because that's great, one of the most important things that you bring to the table is your presence. You come out there and you look... I mean, dude, you look like a Greek god, right? You come out there chiseled, abs, you know what I mean? You got them sexy ass abs, bro. You got them cover model abs. You know what I mean?
Man, dedication for 25 years, bro.
Hell yeah, it is. You got a great physique, great body, great athleticism.
Appreciate that.
But more than just that, because I've seen a shit ton of just jacked yoke dudes that look great and come out and like they can't move the needle worth nothing.
Of course.
But when you come out there, you are able to just get people to lose their minds, bro. Guaranteed, when Tino Piscitelli comes out through the curtain, 2 things are about to happen. Whether you're a heel or a babyface, which you've been playing a heel predominantly,
yep.
You're going to come out and people are going to lose their minds and start booing. And all the girls, the second thing that's going to happen, all the girls in that building are just screaming their lungs out, bro. You can always, I may be in the back getting ready for a match, and if you're on before me, bro, and I just start hearing some girl screaming bloody murder, I know Tino, I'm like, oh, Tino came out. I'm talking about, yo, listen, this boy got girls screaming bloody murder. Like someone's out there murdering her. I'm like, yo, I was like, what is happening? These girls just screaming for the man out there.
Man.
So more
but that's half the battle, though. That's half the battle. People reaction. You just need people to react.
I always say this, especially in entertainment, you either got it or you don't.
Yep.
There's certain things that are just unteachable. You can learn, you can build a body. You can eat right, train right, you can build a body. You can learn techniques, you can learn the fundamentals, you can learn psychology, right? But there's just something about this, and we call it the it factor, charisma, personality, whatever it is, whatever this thing is that we know what it is, but we're not quite sure what it is, so we can't put a name on it, so we say it's the it factor. You got it, bro. You got it.
So do you, man. You know you do too. So call a spade, brother.
Hey, man. You know what I mean? Just a couple of thoroughbreds over here sitting, chatting, talking, having a good time.
He's being a little modest, but those girls we scream when Dan comes out too. Don't let it fool you, man. But you know what? Like you said, it's, and I think that's what it comes down to in believing who you are, believing who you are and the character you're portraying, man.
Yeah.
And I think I think if I had to look at myself and break myself down and critique myself, that's something that and that's what Triple H said to me about what Riddick was. The one thing I was great at, well, not real good at, was my presence, the way I carried my character, the way I made people believe my character. And the wrestling part is very, very, very important as well. And I think that's one I struggled with for a little while, because you just said something about when you watched me run, how explosive I am. That's what I was gifted for, was a very explosive athlete. I mean, I ran a 4.3, 4.4 at 225. I could fly.
Speed. Real speed.
And I was real speed. Yeah, and not even that, I might change direction. I broke the record at the combine. I held the combine record for 7 years. So
what drill?
In the short shuttle.
Short shuttle.
I ran a 3.88.
So that's where you start in the middle. You got so there's 10 yards. So there's 10 yards of space. You start in the middle of that 10 yards. You run one direction, 5 yards, plant, run 10 yards the next direction, plant, 5 yards, timer stops.
Yep.
So it's just pure acceleration, deceleration, acceleration, deceleration, acceleration.
It shows how explosive, strong, and athletic an athlete is, because his ability to literally stop and turn on a dime and explode out of your brakes.
Yes.
So again, and this is something that why I believe that I am the greatest, or one of the greatest athletes ever set foot here, because you can Google me, brother. Like, and this is something, I mean this in a humbling way, in a sense where I don't speak much on Instagram or on social media about my character yet, because I had a thought process of when I'm going to open up. And I hear a lot of these characters talking about, and they throw the word around elite too much for me, athletic wise, right? And that's why I think Tino, the character, is something different to this industry that could bring, because I'm not lying.
Yeah.
This is who I am when I wake up. You know what I'm saying? When I wake up, this is who I am.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get in my 3-piece suit. I'm gonna get in my Maserati or one of my cars, and I'm gonna drive to the arena and I'm gonna put on a show. And that's what people don't like. They don't like that. They like that. That's who I really am.
Right.
And like we talked about, man, I haven't spoke on the release yet that much. It's only about a little week and a half. My mom always said, unless you want to say something that you know want to say something great, don't say something at all yet. So I've kind of not said much. I am very grateful to WWE. I am very thankful and grateful for the opportunity they gave me 5 years ago.
Of course.
They gave me an incredible opportunity to come still be a professional entertainer, professional athlete. And I was actually, at that point in my life, I was down. I was depressed. Couldn't get back in NFL. So they gave me a second chance, a second motivation. You know what I'm saying? And for that, I'm extremely grateful for that. I don't agree with this outcome. And I know some of it's circumstantial. The coronavirus hit. I've been out 2 years, but they haven't seen the last of me, man. And I believe that in a couple of different ways. And I think I can deliver something in this industry special. And I'm going to continue to work on that. And I think it's a missed opportunity right now in Tino. But that being said, I'm very excited to continue to humble myself and work harder and harder.
Hell yeah. I'm happy to hear that, because I'm glad. I'm happy to hear that you're not done with this.
No.
Because I'm with you on the fact that you got something to offer this world. You know what I mean? And I think something that pro wrestling is missing is what you can offer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I appreciate that. I mean, and you're in the same boat, man. I don't know how much you want to talk about your situation, but I mean, you're 6'9", 300 pounds with a presence yourself, man. And,
right.
I think this industry
Our situations are similar in the regards that we weren't even given opportunities. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We weren't even given opportunities to fail or succeed.
So you just said that right there. That's the pill I can't swallow.
Right.
And I think you just said it right there. And that's the 4-year-old of me of when I was the most competitive kid in the world. I couldn't even play video games because I would throw the controller and break it. So the thing is this: I'm not gonna sit here and dedicate myself for 5 years to NXT. And I'll be honest with you, I started from the bottom. I humbled myself. I was miserable living in Orlando. I just was.
Yeah.
No social life. We were working, when I first signed here, we were working 6 days a week, sometimes 14, 15-hour days, driving to Jacksonville and back, the next day going to Tampa and back. And I dedicated.
Those are hard, bro.
Those are hard,
listen, dude.
Those
driving.
are hard days. And I'm not going to walk away from something that, like you said, without getting a legit opportunity. Because, if you get a legit opportunity and you fail, okay, you failed. If you succeed, you succeed. But if you don't get that, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I'm just bred differently in a sense where my mindset's different. And I am a true competitor at the highest level. I am, I thrive off another man looking me in the eye and say, I'm better than you. I love that opportunity. I love it. Right. Oh, I'm going to outwork you today. Okay. Let's go.
Let's see.
Let's go.
Let's see.
And
I hope you brought your hard hat and your lunch pail.
Hope you brought it all.
I hope you brought it because we're about to put in some overtime today.
And that's where I'm at. When I got that phone call, that was mine. Understanding that, nah, bro, I never got my shot. And you guys both know. I mean, I never got a real opportunity, and I won't walk away from there because I've had, and just like yourself, a lot of people have told you, and a lot of people told myself. When Vince sees you in that spotlight, he could see the it factor quick. And I think a lot of people told me personally that they felt my character was better suited for a Raw or SmackDown. Right. But that's just hearsay, she-say stuff. And I kind of
it's just a different show.
Different show.
Know what I mean? Each show has
their strength. Yeah.
They have their little niches. Each show has something different. You know what I mean? And
NXT is great for what they provide.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude.
Those guys are amazing at what they do in the ring.
I mean, dude, we've been training with those dudes for 5 years. You know what I mean?
100%.
I've learned a lot from all of those guys. You know what I mean? You learn a lot from the coaches, the producers, right? But you learn in this industry, you truly learn from your peers.
Yeah.
And you learn from your peers that have been in the game for a while.
100%.
And we've had the opportunity to be around some of the best, workers in the world.
100%.
And I've been able to learn from those guys, and go out there and perform and compete and compete, you know what I mean? And out in front of an audience, a live audience, and learn and build your craft over all these years.
Yeah.
So dude, it's no knock on NXT. I love what NXT does.
Oh no, it's
just a different. It's just a different style
100%.
of wrestling,
it's where you
of
fit.
Entertainment, right?
Listen,
and to be honest, I heard the same things that you would hear all the time. It's like, oh, you're not made for NXT. You're gonna go straight to the to Raw or SmackDown, right? But it's like, now that NXT is on USA, it's like, well, why not?
100%. But
why couldn't a guy like us fit there? Because it's like, we'd be so different. And you would add an element to the show because it's like, let's not forget this is a weekly episodic television show,
100%,
bro.
every Wednesday night.
And it's like, let's have different It's like the circus,
Yeah.
In terms of, you go to the circus, you're going to see the bearded lady. You're going to see the strong man, the sword swallower, the fire spitter, the trapeze artist. They're all spectacular in their own right because they're all so different.
100%.
So it's like, let's put different different contrasting character shapes and sizes and colors all
couldn't
together.
agree with you more.
Because that's how you tell crazy stories. That's how you do David versus Goliath, or you do, the elite, versus the low man, the
100%.
underdog, those things. That's how you build those stories on the opposite side of the spectrum. That's where you build, that's where you invest. That's where you get people drawn in. That's how you hit every home demographic, all the different people. You want to try and get as many people from all different places. That's the thing that's great about pro wrestling, is that you got so many different characters,
so many different personalities,
so many different flavors that you pull in all the kids and all the, even the adults that come in and want to see all these different different characters. And when you have all those the contrasting flavors, you come up with just a tasty ass recipe that you could sell to everybody.
And you know what?
And that's when wrestling is at its best.
You hit the nail on the head. And like I said, I would never tell a guy like Triple H how to run it because he's done an incredible job. I mean, the guy built NXT. The guy has, they literally celebrated him yesterday. The guy's had a tremendous career in every aspect of this organization, and he's obviously the man. The one thing like us saying or me saying that I didn't think I fit in NXT has nothing to do with him. I think it's just the character that I play versus character you play, but it's something that I don't, like you said, I don't know if they build a story where our characters per se of like a guy like you, especially who's 6'9", 300 pounds, who's built like, an athletic machine. I don't know that that's what the NXT is trying to portray. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's where like when we both say that, but it's no disrespect, like, cause I don't mean disrespect by it, but it's just one of those things where just like in a defense or an offense, not every quarterback or not every receiver fits good in an offense. Like, you look at a lot of
systems, styles of play, you know what I mean?
You look at a lot of receivers that are successful in one system that don't go to another system and don't play at all.
Right.
So it's just one of those things where, I don't know, it's just that that's what I wanted, Triple H is one that gave me an opportunity. So I would love to perform in NXT. I would love to be able to bring my character to the main stage. It's just as of right now, I just never got the opportunity.
So what is the next move going forward now for you?
Obviously, with the quarantine going on and the world kind of shut down.
Everything's kind of shut down.
I'm just right now just trying to kind of just stay in great shape, stay on my regiment, trying to stay in the gym. I got a little private gym in my house. And when the world kind of turns back on, I think in the next couple months, I'm going to get some feelers out there of what Tino's next move is, and maybe where I could perform and what industries I could perform with. And, I'd be extremely humbled, and it'd be a privilege to go somewhere and be able to put what I believe a character that draws great presence and great demand to the ring, and continue to, work on my craft to get better in the ring. Because like I told you, man, I'm just not bred like this, man. I'm not bred to walk away because you don't have anything for me on TV right now. I'm just not like that. That excuse to me that we just don't have anything for you right now. Okay, well, I'll make sure next time that I work hard enough to make sure you guys have to have something for me. Yeah. If that makes any sense. So, and it's just on me. It's like, again, humbled, grateful, thankful for WWE. I'm so grateful for where they put me today. But yeah, they remotivated me too.
Hell yeah, bro. Hey man, when this quarantine opens back, shuts, is back open, the world's running again. If you're a company, if you're a wrestling promoter out there, you're looking for some young, successful studs out there, some thoroughbreds. My man Tino Piscitelli is a free agent now, and you would be a damn fool if you didn't sign this dude. AEW, TNA, Independence, anybody, Japan. Get your checkbook out. Write this man the money that he needs.
You too, Dan.
Put him in. Hey, listen. The world's good. Y'all are going to find out about me. You know what I mean? I'm in the same boat as you. I'm in the same boat as you. A little bit different because I asked for my release.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Because I had kind of come to a boiling point. I was frustrated with the way things were going, and I thought, just like you, I have this. Wrestling's much like comedy in the sense that, like, you don't need to be told that you're funny. You're funny because you go out there, you tell a joke, and everybody laughs, And it's like, I don't need somebody to tell me that I'm good or if I'm good enough, because I go out there and I got the reactions from the fans. The fans were invested in my matches. They would make the noise. The noise was all that I needed to
100%.
know. You know what I mean?
And you're doing a good job.
And like, it was just like, I know my worth. It's similar to you. I know my value.
And you have to hold that confidence, though. They should respect that. Like, if any media or anything hears this podcast, I don't want anybody running and trying to say, we sound egotistical or this. That has nothing to do with that, because I'll tell you something. To be successful in a professional industry, in sports, entertainment, anything, you better have the most confidence you could ever have. And if you ain't thinking you're the best out there, then you're in the wrong situation.
The only people that would think that this conversation was an arrogant conversation, or that you have arrogance in yourself or I have arrogance in myself, are people that are insecure with themselves. But if you're truly a secure person in yourself, you just know that we're two confident human beings in our abilities, and rightfully so, because the confidence was built through competence.
That's why they came to get us years ago.
Yeah.
They saw the way you carried yourself. They saw the way I carried myself. They loved it. So it's something that they helped mold us into this, but they loved it before they even came to us with this. Yeah,
man. I've already kind of touched on how I feel about everything. I put a statement out, maybe like a week ago with my injury, just kind of stating about the car accident and then about my release. I did an IG live and just was like, hey, this is what happened. And then I was released. I had asked for my release, and it was just, I know how good I am. You know what I mean? Absolutely. And I know how much value I provide to a company, because I know no matter how good I am, I'm only as good as the person that I'm in the ring with. But I know if you put me in the ring with somebody else who is good or of equal talent, we are going to make a shit ton of money.
See, that's another thing that that challenged me. So I don't know this is how I was when I was growing up, right? So it was actually, my strength was a part of my weakness in the sense of this. In college, if you look back at all my best games my senior year, it was all against the number 1 team, number 10 team, number 15 team, and number 20 team in the country, right? But then when we played like Arizona or Washington, I had like subpar games. So my coach pulled me in office one day and said, hey, Savvy, what's going on, man? You didn't play that good yesterday. Coach, you were playing Arizona. Okay, we played number 1 team in the country. Who shows up? I show up. It's a good thing, it's a bad thing. But the good thing about it is this. When you're in the ring with somebody who's better than you, because you guys, we all both know in this industry, you can't look good in the ring and your opponent can't look bad. It's not going to happen. You guys got to look good together.
You got to make each other look good.
So for me, my whole thing was I was inviting to get in the ring with like the Revival. They're the best in the industry. The Revival is the best in the company by far. Ty Dillinger, Perfect 10, was an incredible wrestler when he was with me in NXT. He helped me jump. So the point I'm trying to say is this. Sometimes I was looking for that challenge that I needed to get challenged. I would love to get in the ring with a Randy Orton or John Cena or Roman Reigns because I think I'm bred, my personality is going to live up to that, right? But in this industry, they want to make sure you're ready, and I get that because there's a lot of moving parts, and I appreciate that. But sometimes you have to adapt, like we talked about earlier. Everybody's different. You have to adapt to every superstar differently. Everybody reacts differently to things. Some people love pressure. Some people don't like pressure. Some people like to be on the spotlight. Some people don't like to be on the spotlight. Some people like to be pushed to a limit. Some people don't like to be pushed to a limit. So that's where you have to find out who you are as a person. But like you said, you put me into the ring with somebody who's a lot better than me, I have to live up to that. I have to rise up to their standards. Right. And that's motivation, man.
Hell yeah.
So,
hey, man. I think this is a good place, man. I think we've been going for like 3 hours.
Dude, this is crazy, man. What time is it?
I feel like we could probably talk for another 3 hours.
We've been going for like 2.5 hours, dude. It's 10 o'clock.
Is there anything you want to plug right now? Social media, anything coming up for you? Any charities, anything you want to just bring some attention to right now?
I'm going to be starting a YouTube channel soon. Okay. Probably with my trainer down south of workouts and daily routines of what made me an All-American college football player, a second-round draft pick NFL player, and a WWE superstar. Kind of go with that, and that's going to be launching hopefully next couple months, maybe next month or so. Okay. I will address social media probably before this comes out, but I will address social media on my release and what's going on and be grateful for everything. But nothing in particular. Just I want to wish everyone safety through this quarantine. I hope everyone's family's safe. I hope everyone's kind of following the social distancing and staying home. I know it's getting frustrating, but listen, man, wash your hands, stay home. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but this is something we got to control and take part. And if we all do our part, we all do a little part, it'd be a lot. So, yeah. Listen, first of all, again, appreciate you having me on your show, man.
It was a pleasure. The pleasure was mine, bro.
And you look great, bro, for you being in a car accident, bro. I'll tell you something. That's amazing, bro. Real talk. So,
appreciate that.
Thanks, bro.
Grateful. Blessed to be here, bro. Thank you for being on the drop.
Thank you, man.
Love you, big homie.
Love you, buddy. Appreciate it, man. What if you do this whole thing and you forgot to push record?